Am I the asshole for not allowing my employees to keep tampons and pads in our bathroom at work? For a little background, I manage a retail store for a relatively smallish company, 70 or so locations. I currently have 2 female employees on my staff in their early/mid-20s. I am a male in my early 30s. Yesterday, I found a box of tampons in the bathroom at our store. Our store only has one bathroom, so by default it is our customer-accessible bathroom. Some of our stores, just by nature of whatever the building was used for before we bought them, have employee bathrooms and customer bathrooms. But ours only has one single-person bathroom that is on the sales floor. One of my female employees had left them in the bathroom. I informed her that while there is absolutely nothing wrong with keeping feminine hygiene products at the store, they would need to be kept in the office, and could not be kept in the bathroom. She said she thought that was sexist. I told her that it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a feminine hygiene product, because it is a personal use product, which we don't want to have kept in a bathroom available to our customers, and that if a male or female employee wanted to keep a razor, toothbrush, deodorant, etc. in the bathroom, then it would be prohibited as well. She said that's not the same thing, as those are all personal use products that everyone uses, not just women. My other female employee understands this policy and doesn't see anything wrong with it. The male employees aren't really relevant to the situation, but I would wager that they agree, though I haven't discussed it with them because, again, doesn't seem relevant. The upset female employee, however, finds it to be sexist and wants to discuss it with HR, which I told them I would be more than happy to facilitate a conversation with concerning this. While this is not a documented company policy, I feel as though it's common sense to not keep personal hygiene products in a place that customers will be and that HR will agree. I've always had a reputation as being one of the better general managers in our company, especially in terms of low turnover and high employee morale. I don't want my employee to feel as though she's being discriminated against because she's a wonderful person and a great employee. But I just don't see how this is sexist. I can see her point that men don't really have an equivalent male-exclusive item, but I don't see how that changes anything in this specific instance. Am I missing something? Edit. I'm considering all the feedback, but I just wanted to clarify a couple points relevant to a lot of the responses. 1. This is not a female bathroom, it is a single toilet unisex bathroom. It's the size of a closet and has a toilet and sink. 2. This is not my business. So installing a tampon and pad dispensers, which I'd 1000% support, is not remotely my decision. 3. My employee did not intend the tampons for use by customers or other employees, and I asked. 4. I'm not objecting to the tampons because I don't understand how periods work, or I'm grossed out by them, but because it could really cause problems if an auditor comes in and sees what they will see as a personal use product left in a public area. Second edit, just a couple more clarifying points in response to some common questions or not really correct assumptions. This has been a pretty split decision so far. 1. It is a very small store and a very small bathroom. There is no cabinet under the sink or space for a cabinet that could be locked. The only places to put anything really is on the floor, on the sink itself, or on top of the toilet. A wall-mounted dispenser or very thin cabinet may work, but I'm not permitted to make changes like that to the facilities. I will bring up the option with HR. 2. The office is roughly 10 steps from the bathroom at most. They're right next to each other. 3. We've usually 1 or 2 employees on shift at a time. If there is 1 employee, they are encouraged to place a pre-made bathroom sign on the store's door and lock the door. No questions asked. 4. I will readily admit my examples were not a good comparison and not well thought out. And 5. To the people saying I'm an immature misogynist, insecure in my own masculinity who's grossed out by menstruation and tampons, you're entitled to your own opinion. But I'm just not. I've always been perfectly comfortable with my significant others and female roommates keeping whatever they need wherever they need it, picking up tampons from the store for them, and would have not thought twice about this if we had an employee bathroom. I will update this post after our conversation with HR, which has already been scheduled for tomorrow. Okay, wow. The usual logic of all of these edits on a post usually means it's you're the asshole and they're just digging themselves a deeper hole. But this is one of those exceptions where I'm like, wow, you really explained this situation in so much detail that there isn't really an argument that I can see against you anymore. It's a tiny bathroom, you're not allowed to install anything in it, and it's 10 steps away from her desk. If you're going to get in trouble for keeping personal products in there and it's an absolute rule that you can get audited and in trouble for, I feel like she can go to the effort of keeping her personal items with her 10 steps away from the bathroom door. This seems like a really weird hill for her to die on, and everyone else attacking you for being sexist, I'm guessing didn't see the edits, all of these edits that you've made to the post. I'm gonna go with not the asshole for this one. Now in the comments, he likes her says, not the asshole. She can't leave personal belongings in the bathroom. You're the asshole. I already knew this by the first paragraph. No uterus, no opinion. A quick suggestion for the employee. She can keep the box of tampons underneath her register, out of sight, so she can grab one when she needs it and put it in her pocket. Not the asshole. Your logic seems very reasonable, and keeping them in the office seems like a good compromise. Honestly, it seems like the people calling you sexist didn't read past the title. I personally wouldn't want to keep mine in the toilets accessible to the customers for fear they wouldn't be there when I needed them. If it was a staff toilet, it would be a different story, but that's personal choice. No personal use items kept in the toilets means that. I'm not sure why this employee is getting so worked up about it. It's not sexist. I have the space in my work toilets, but still keep them in my desk drawer. I don't want people cut short with dirty hands rummaging around in the tampon box. Our next post is by user NoIndividual2354, titled, Would I be the asshole if I don't tell my best friend's dying mother that my son is actually her grandson? Title is a little bit of a doozy. I'll do my best to explain. Ages are current to now. I, 37 male, am 100% sterile due to a childhood accident. My wife, 35 female, and I considered our options when starting a family and agreed a sperm donor situation would be the most affordable and accessible option available to us. After looking into more traditional methods, we both concluded that an anonymous nut in a cup was a little weird and impersonal for us both. After a lot of irrelevant interlude, my best friend John, 39 male, agreed to be the donor. This was years ago, and my wife and I now have a son, Abram. Changed obviously, 7 male, from this arrangement. We've also adopted a second child, Lily, 4 female. John is also a part of both of my children's lives, and we are all very close, but they have no clue that he is Abram's bio dad, and neither really does anyone else. A few close relatives know he isn't biologically mine, but only because they know I'm sterile. Even our friends don't really know. It just isn't relevant, and we are private people. John is single and has been pretty much his whole life. He's financially and career motivated and just hasn't ever settled down and doesn't really plan to now. With Abram, he has a bio-child and he can interact with him, but no responsibility at all. It works and hasn't been an issue until now. Although he has a brother, 45 male, his brother definitely will never have children. His mother, who's in her late 60s, has always sort of wanted grandkids, I guess, but never made much of a fuss. But she recently found she has terminal cancer and only a year or so to live, and has now been saying her biggest regret is never getting to be a grandmother, etc. John has come to my wife and I and asked us to let Abram know that he is his biological father so that he can let his mother have a grandmother/grandchild relationship. Neither my wife nor I want to rock the boat in any of the ways that entails, and have told him as much. But now he's saying after all he's done, all he's asking for is to let his son know his family, and that he's always assumed that we'd someday tell everyone. This is something we adamantly were not interested in doing, so I'm assuming this is all from him being shocked and upset about his mother, but I put my foot down and told him a solid no. Now he's saying I'm an asshole, and I'll be crushing his mother's dreams if I don't let him tell Abram. Will I be the asshole if I don't relent? Edit. I've not had much time to read and process the responses, much less reply myself, but to clarify, Lily does know she's adopted. Our ethnicities are different, etc. Our main reason to not tell Abram has had nothing to do with him, and I'm sure we were always going to let him know eventually. Especially that he isn't biologically related to me. But we haven't wanted to complicate his relationship with John or give him a reason to be bullied, etc. Mostly the latter, with our main fear being that kids would assume affair or something like that due to the community that we live in, which is reasonably conservative and very nosy. Oh my god, when he said that line, there's just like a massive pit that opened up in my stomach. I'm like, oh my god, I really hope I never have to be in a situation like this in my life. Like, what do you say? What do you say? You either destroy your friendship and relationship with this guy, or you just massively screw up your child who it's just like, by the way, I'm not your dad. Here's your dad. He's going through a really emotional and tough time right now because his mum's dying. Also, here's your grandmother. She's dying. You're 7 years old. Good luck. I don't know, OP. What's the lesser of two evils in this situation? Because this, to me, seems like it is absolutely not the way to say that, hey, look, your family's kind of a lie here. Your dad's been here the whole time, but surely you're young enough now to process all of this in a reasonable way. No way. I couldn't do this. I could not do that. But considering all of that, I'm saying not the asshole for OP. Now in the comments, Scrapple Sandwiches says, you're the asshole. I mean, this is why people pay for the anonymous and impersonal nut in a cup. You wanted the personal nut in a cup, and your son should know eventually, if only for medical history reasons. Imagine he finds out 11 years from now. His resentment at not being told the truth his whole life, and not getting to know his grandmother even though he could have, or if John decides this is a bad deal for him and sues for paternity rights. Or John decides to let the cat out of the bag before you tell your son. God, that makes me cringe even more inside. Unless he's willing to contact every single one-night stand to determine if a child resulted in those unions, he has no claim over this child whatsoever. And for that matter, all masturbatory emissions where his sperm was clearly not seeking an egg could be termed reckless abandonment. I'm sorry, I haven't watched Legally Blonde in a long time, but 2 comments here go, Ellie Woods? Lol, and haha. The joke is lost on me, but if you guys get it, you're welcome to comment it down below. Not the arsehole. How does John not realize that he's using Abram as a potential emotional support animal for his mom? Also, does he not realize that by claiming Abram as his biological son/grandson of his mother, that is going to cause lasting consequences where he needs to step up? Like, John can't pull a "you are her grandson but not my son" card. For frick's sake, John isn't even thinking about the potential trauma this kid will have to go through, where he's being thrust as a miracle child towards a grandmother he didn't know existed, who is going to die soon, and an absentee biological father who only wants to play fun uncle. That is way too much pressure to put on a 7-year-old child. The reality is, biological or not, John isn't his father, nor is his mother his grandmother. His parents are the ones who raised and took care of him, and his grandparents are the parents of his parents. And they are entitled to tell him of where he came from on their own time when it is in Abram's best interests, not from when it is in the best interest of John. And edit, another point, for those who say that John is still the biological father, and therefore his dad, even though he never paid child support or was a dad role in his life, what about his mum? You know, his biological mother who raised him, took care of him, sent him off to school. Why should John, who was never there, because he's not his dad, get more say than his mother? I couldn't have said it any better. OP absolutely not the asshole. It is clear that not anonymous donors do have some consequences, like the top comment says, but this is extremely unhealthy for the poor kid. Although I do think Abram should eventually know about his biological dad, I don't understand how anyone could ever call OP an asshole in this particular situation. You should tell the kid slowly and reassuringly that his dad is not a biological father, and then cautiously introduce John in a new way. Not dump a kid straight into a situation with a dying, not so much only biological, grandma. It would be so harmful for the poor kid. Unexposed is by user Personal Divide 3156. Titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to go to a concert with my wife after she called the lead singer her dream man? My wife is a big fan of rock music. About a month ago, she started going on about one of her favorite bands and how cute and talented the lead singer is. Of course, that is no problem, and I'm not jealous of a random celebrity. However, she then proceeded to tell me this lead singer is her exact type and her dream man. She even said at one point, and I quote, "If only he wasn't married," but tried to make it sound like a joke. For context, this man literally could not be more different from me. I'm on the bigger side, mixed race, short hair, and the musician is a skinny white dude with long hair. I know she didn't mean it to be hurtful towards me, but it kinda stung to hear straight up that I am so different from her dream type appearance-wise, and her comments brought up some insecurities that I thought I had gotten over. It wasn't a big deal, so I didn't let her know this upset me at the time, and I moved on from it. It turns out the band is coming to our city in a few weeks. My wife originally wasn't able to get tickets since they are so expensive. But this morning, she texted me that her coworker bought tickets but can't make it, and is willing to resell the tickets to my wife for a much lower price. She called me to confirm that I would go with her, and she should go ahead and get the tickets. I took a minute, but said, honestly, I'd rather not accompany you to a concert where you're just going to be fawning over your dream man the whole time. She seemed totally shocked by this and responded, "Why are you making this about you?" So we talked it out a bit, but I didn't back down, and I told her that I'm not interested in going. She can of course take a friend or someone else, but I simply don't feel like going with her. This upset her a lot more than I thought it would, and she came home from work nearly in tears, asking why I'm being petty and selfish by not going with her. She said the singer is just a dumb celebrity crush that she was rambling about, and it makes no sense for me to be taking it personally and making this an issue between us. I told her I'm not mad at her for trying to start drama, I just would prefer not to accompany her to this particular show. We haven't talked since last night, and I don't really feel like apologizing. Am I the asshole for not budging on this? And edit for everyone asking, the band is Tame Impala. I guess I could have specified that to begin with. In all honesty, if you don't want to go to the show, it's fair. You don't have to go to watch Tame Impala if you don't want to. And even though this is the reason, I feel like that's a valid reason. That's not just a shallow reason not to want to go to watch them. I absolutely bet, if you made a big deal about going to see a female artist who was the exact opposite of your wife and you said, "God, if only she was single, I would put so many babies in her. She's the woman of my dreams. Come on, wife, let's go watch that show together. I really want to see the dream woman of my dreams." I'm willing to bet she'd feel insecure about that and wouldn't be happy going because you've made such a show of that woman being so high on a pedestal that your wife could never achieve. That's enough to make anyone hurt on the inside. I feel like you could talk this one out with your wife and come to a reasonable solution. It's not out of the question, and it's not unreasonable for you not to go. She can take another friend, that's normal. I'm gonna go with not the asshole for this one. Now in the comments, I Dream in Words says, I'm actually super surprised with all of the "you're the assholes" here. It's not like you were preventing her from going to the concert. You just don't want to go with her. I can understand how it may be a bit hurtful to hear your wife constantly go on about wishing she was with someone else. It doesn't matter if it's a complete fantasy, that would never happen. Saying someone the exact opposite of you is her exact type sounds harsh. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. But I don't think it's unreasonable for you to be hurt. Let her find a friend to go with her. Not the asshole. There's a difference between celebrity crush and saying crap like dream man, and if only he wasn't married. My partner has his celeb crushes, but he doesn't gush over it. He knows about my insecurities, and it doesn't benefit him to openly fawn over how hot he finds some stranger to me. Most women don't want to hear about how their husband or boyfriend finds some other chick, especially if she's got a big ass or chest, and said girlfriend/wife is flatter in those areas. I feel like there's a double standard there. In my opinion, unless you both like sharing about that sort of stuff, leave that talk with your friends or in some online forum. Your husband doesn't want to hear how wet you get over some other dude. Then expect him to go with you to a concert so you can scream and fawn over this punk. Not the asshole. No assholes here. Your feelings are valid, but you're not being malicious. But you should have told her that she was making you uncomfortable right then. She's blindsided and upset now because your legitimate feelings appear to come out of nowhere over what is literally a silly celebrity crush and something she's stoked about and wants to share with you. It's a pretty unfortunate predicament. You were getting called the asshole because you're a man, and Reddit loves empowered women talking about their sexuality. Take away the stupid ideological crap that taints almost every decision on this sub, and it's pretty clear you're not the asshole. Your wife made some very insensitive comments. If it had been you calling a female musician your dream girl and crushing over her in front of your wife, and then you got upset that your wife wouldn't come with you to see her perform, everyone on this site would say you're the asshole for being so thoughtless and insensitive. Especially if your wife was black and your dream girl was white, because Reddit loves calling things racist. Because you're a man, Reddit thinks you were supposed to tough it out though. And your feelings aren't as valid as a woman's, so you get called the asshole. I know that last comment wasn't necessary, but I see a lot of people saying things like that in the comments. I just thought that I'd put it out there. Am I the asshole for talking to a girl in Swedish who claimed that she spoke it? I'm Swedish and have lived in the US for about 5 years. I met my girlfriend 3 years ago and we hit it off immediately. Last week we celebrated her birthday and she had, like usual, invited friends to the party. One of them we can call Linda. The evening was going well. We had talks, games, and fun. My girlfriend and Linda spoke about some new acquaintance from Germany or something, and Linda reached out and said that she had Swedish heritage and was really proud because she spoke the language fluently because her mormor, grandma in Swedish, mum's side, taught her. Well, you can imagine I was thrilled, since the only times I get to speak Swedish now is on the phone and online and chat with friends. So I proclaimed a whole bunch of Swedish stuff that I can't read, which translates to, cool, then we can talk a bit of Swedish if you want. It's been a long time since I could speak Swedish with somebody in real life. She looked at me, and you could immediately tell her expression from, oh crap. She tried to get back on track and said, sorry, you caught me off guard. I didn't know you were Swedish. Could you repeat that? So I said, Swedish stuff, which means yeah, I thought you could talk a little Swedish. She then said, jag Linda namar hördur, which made it obvious she knew a few words, but definitely not on a conversational level. She said, jag Linda namar hördur, which, while understandable, is not correct Swedish. The correct sentence would be,
Jag heter Linda. Hur mår du?
For, my name is Linda, how are you? The rest of the night was tense, to say the least. She kept looking at me like I'd ruined her plan and made her the villain. I don't even care if she could speak it or not. I just wanted to talk to someone. The evening went by and they all left. The next day, after my girlfriend had a talk with her, she explained that Linda was really mad at me for, quote-unquote, embarrassing her in front of everybody. I told my girlfriend that I did in no way do that, since all I did was ask her if she wanted to talk to me, and then I repeated myself since I thought she didn't hear me the first time. I thought she just hadn't activated her ear for other languages, which happens to me all the time. I get just as surprised and miss out on what was said if someone suddenly speaks in another language that I understand. Now I'm the bad guy, apparently. What do you think? Am I the asshole? What is going on with these people that embarrass themselves and then immediately they just gaslight and they're like, oh, it was definitely you that was the issue here? It's definitely not me that needs to swallow my pride and just admit that I don't know Swedish. No. You talking Swedish in a conversational way? You're an asshole. You're what's wrong with this world. You're the one with the issue, not me. And yeah, I get it. It's not actual gaslighting. Like, real gaslighting is manipulating someone by psychological means into doubting their own sanity. Maybe that's projecting then. They're projecting their insecurities and their failure onto the rest of the world. So yeah, OP is not the one with the problem here. This other person is that's being a fake Swede, not the asshole OP. Now in the comments, Kurtek Jim says, not the asshole. She should have realized that there was a non-zero chance of this happening someday and quietly retired the lie. Yeah, this is so silly. We see it so frequently on this sub. People claiming to speak another language and then getting mad when they get caught out. It makes no sense. My grandparents were German. I can speak a few loaned sentences to get by with the great aunts and uncles who speak very little English, and I can generally understand what's being said if a conversation is happening around me. But I would never claim to speak German. That would be ridiculous, and I'm sure I'd just end up humiliating myself. I'm in the same boat. I usually say I speak enough German to get myself into trouble, but not out of it. Carries the message well enough. Not the asshole, Linda is a liar. And an idiot. Her friend has been dating OP for 3 years. Did she not realize that one day this would bite her in the ass? She said she didn't know he was Swedish. Maybe not such a good friend. I have a Dutch son-in-law. He's been in the country 12 years, is very fluent in English, but obviously not an American. Kind of hard to hide. Our next post is by user JennyCat112, titled, Am I the asshole for asking my boyfriend to cancel dinner with his son and daughter-in-law because I was specifically not invited? I had made plans to hang out with my boyfriend after work today and spend the night. We live an hour apart, with my work in the middle. Then he tells me that he was invited to dinner with his son, his daughter-in-law, daughter-in-law's mother, and my boyfriend's ex-wife, who I get along with just fine. We spent Christmas together, so it's no big deal. My boyfriend's daughter-in-law says she does not want me to come because it would be awkward for her. I should mention that there's a big age gap between my boyfriend and me, and I think daughter-in-law, and possibly his son too, do not like the age difference. This isn't the first time I've been specifically not invited, and it really hurts my feelings. I asked my boyfriend not to go, but he replied that he'd already said yes. So I told him if he goes to the dinner, I'm not coming over tonight. Even though he'd only be gone an hour or two, my feelings are too hurt to wait around by myself for him to get back. Am I the asshole? 'Cause I sure feel like it, making my boyfriend choose like that. For clarification, my boyfriend and I made plans together. He asks me to come down every chance I get, and always asks me to come down even when he knows that I can't. We've been together for over 2 years, and it is a serious relationship. The only reason we don't live together is because I have cats, and his dog doesn't get along with cats. I'm 12 years older than his son, I'm 40, and boyfriend is 55. The son lives in the same town and he sees him several times a week. I've never included anyone in his family, including his ex-wife. We actually have invited her over for dinner several times as my boyfriend's daughter and granddaughter live there as well, and I'm an adult and not jealous of her. The daughter-in-law is known for being rude to everyone. Honestly, I don't see what's wrong with you being 40 and him being 55. Sure, it's a bit of an age gap and you're 12 years older than his son, but that's not weird to me. I feel like that's kind of normal here. Maybe if he was 33 and you were 18, there would be a difference there. Maybe if he was 40 and you were 25, bit of a difference. That would be a bit weird, but you've kind of smoothed your life out by 40 and him being 55. Like, no one really cares at that age anymore. At least I'd hope not. Like, I can't talk with authority on that. But yet this family still thinks it's a big enough deal to not include you in any of these family dinners, especially this one? And he always tells you to come down an hour's drive every chance, even when he knows that you can't. You don't mention him coming to see you and making that drive himself, nor do you mention him making any attempts to come see you all the time. It's always him asking you to come over to his. It seems like you're the one putting all the effort into this relationship, in all honesty. I'm not going to go to the default Reddit thing and be like, break up with him, because that's just stupid. There's a lot of circumstances where it's better to talk things out. But really, this is something to talk about with your partner, because he's old enough to know that he needs to be doing his fair share in this relationship, and from what you're saying here, it seems like there's a huge imbalance. So I'm going to go not the asshole. I feel like your reasons are valid. Now in the comments, Clogs and Frog says, I'm torn, but surprised people are ignoring the fact that you guys already had plans, and he totally just crapped on them. So because his son and daughter-in-law decided on last-minute plans that specifically exclude you, you have to spend the night alone when you were supposed to be with your boyfriend, and you're supposed to just be super cool and happy with that? My point exactly. He either hid his previous dinner plans in the hopes that he gets dinner and a happy ending, or he's blown her off last minute for a last-minute family dinner. I was so much more diplomatic in my post above. I bet son and daughter-in-law are announcing that they are expecting. I think you may be right about pregnancy. Not the asshole. I think people are overlooking that your boyfriend is cancelling plans with you to go to this dinner, which is rude. I don't think it's productive or wise for you to tell him not to go, but you can certainly tell him you won't be waiting around for him afterwards. I think you might want to reevaluate the relationship, because he obviously has no problem cancelling plans with you at the last minute. Agreed. If someone cancels plans on me, I'm not driving an hour to sit around all night. I think she could have phrased her position like I did instead of the weird ultimatum she made. Also, she's 40 and he's 55. I'm normally super judgmental about age gaps, but that isn't an age gap that bothers me at all. His son is 28. I don't get why anyone is awkward. 40 and 25 is pretty bad, but 55 and 40? That's not a big deal at all. Once you're over mid-30s, there's really not an upper limit unless he's like 80 or something. Our next post is by user Throwaway Am I the Arsehole W Bride, titled, Am I the arsehole for refusing to give up my dream wedding dress, though it means my fiance's family will not attend? I'm in a lot of turmoil right now, and it feels like everything is falling apart. I have never had a great relationship with my future mother-in-law. It isn't terrible, but I can sense that she doesn't like me. My fiancé is very close to his family, so there's been some tension. I didn't invite mother-in-law wedding dress shopping because our relationship is awkward, but I thought I'd show her a picture to make her feel included. My dress is a beautiful, flowy beach dress, but not technically a wedding dress and could be ordered in color. I bought it from a small local boutique that we both love. Mother-in-law said that I can't wear the dress because she bought the same one for her 50th birthday, which is 2 weeks after my wedding. Mother-in-law does have the dress, though in a mint green color. There's enough detailing that it is still clearly the same dress, and she has the receipt to prove that she got it first. Lavish birthday parties are a thing in our circle, so I know she has invested serious time and money in this party. I said that I'm still going to wear the dress, despite the fact I could easily return it with no loss, because I didn't do this out of malice, and I love it. Mother-in-law said that if she wears it 2 weeks after I do, everyone's going to think that she's pathetic and copying her son's wife. I said sorry, but not really my problem. Everyone has gone crazy since I said that. His entire side of the family and all the friends that the mother-in-law invited have all backed out of the wedding. So like 15 people, and it will be noticeable. His sisters were supposed to be in the wedding party on his side, but dropped out and have blocked him on everything. His stepdad won't talk to him and says he regrets raising him and he isn't a real man because a real man would stand up for his mom. His bio dad is even on mother-in-law's side, which doesn't surprise me because they're good friends. But he called us up to shame us the other night. My fiancé is hurting and found out his family had a big beach day and invited everyone but him. He called mother-in-law and they talked, but didn't come to a resolution. She said if I refuse to do the right thing, the only answer is no one going to her party can go to the wedding. He tried calling sister-in-law and found out she blocked him. He's mad at me now and feels like she had it first. Edit for some info, mother-in-law has never acted like this before, truly, ever. She's extremely laid back, doesn't show emotion, not really attention-seeking, which is why my fiancé is so confused. At this point, I think the relationship with his sisters and stepdad is beyond repair for now, and I'm scared to have them at the wedding. To all the people saying I should wear it to her birthday, Lamau? But I'm banned, and her ex has already promised to act as a bouncer. Not that I'd ever crash it. Now in the comments, Raymond Beaumont says, "You can wear whatever you want, but at some point, you might need to think if this dress is more important than your wedding, because it seems like that might not happen at this point." And edits, "Everyone acts like this is just normal behavior for mother-in-law and is a slippery slope. If you don't wear the same dress as her, you will always be under their control." While OP has repeatedly stated that there have been no issues, and this seems all to be about this exact situation. If mother-in-law had written the post, would people be, "If she wears the dress, she will always start wearing the same clothes as you own"? Of course not, because that's ridiculous. Things can happen. That doesn't mean that they will continue to happen under different circumstances. Some people writing comments here are more dramatic than mother-in-law and her family. I agree with this, but mother-in-law and her family are ridiculously overreacting. That goes without saying, but my guess is that OP's significant other isn't willing to cut out his family because of a dress. You're looking at it the wrong way. His family is ready to cut him off over a dress, not the other way around. Frankly, if I was OP, I'd consider running far away from these psychos. If they're going feral over a dress, imagine what they do over more important life decisions, i.e. future kid's name, purchase of a house, etc. Emphasis on over a dress. If this is their knee-jerk reaction to something as trivial as competing dresses, I fear OP has a rough life ahead of her in this marriage. Exactly. The sister blocked him. That's not a rational, we're open to discussion/compromise type of move. Everyone sucks here. All of you sound difficult, except possibly your significant other, who is caught between a bunch of self-righteous entitled people who don't care about the damage they do. The mother-in-law is difficult, but so is OP. You could have been the bigger person and got another dress. You said it yourself that you can still return it, and no big loss. It seems like OP chose to make it more difficult and is a bit of a bridezilla. You should help your fiancé out and not wear the dress. Get a different one, because you're ruining his relationship with his family, and yeah, they are being asshole-ish, but he loves them, and you're driving the wedge. I can't see a good marriage from a start like this, especially since he's mad at you now. Quote, "You could have been the bigger person and got another dress." God, would everyone effing stop with this be the bigger person bullcrap? Why the hell does OP need to be the bigger person over her wedding dress? She's not the one acting like a lunatic, and her being the bigger person will do nothing but encourage her in-laws to continue being awful. I know, right? I don't understand how people think OP is being entitled here. It's the in-laws who are sacrificing the relationship over a dress. OP is sacrificing the relationship over finding out they're insane and manipulative and weird. Those are very, very different, and it's a bit concerning that OP's significant other is mad at her over this. I feel like we're missing some crucial information here. It'd be one thing if it was just a crazy mother-in-law, but the whole side of the family blocking the husband and boycotting the wedding over a dress? Something is not adding up. Matriarchs are real, and they rule the families. Sure, it seems super weird and petty for all of this, but I agree the mother-in-law either threatened or guilt-tripped her whole side of the family into doing what she wants, because in some cultures, it's just like that. Everyone sucks here. To be honest, you kind of walked into this one by purchasing a non-wedding dress from a local boutique that the two of you both like. There was always going to be a distinct possibility of something like this happening because of that. Maybe you can suggest going dress shopping with your future mother-in-law to find her a new dress for her birthday? 50th birthdays are kind of a big deal. Not like a wedding, but still a significant milestone. So I understand that she wants to look nice for it, and there's probably a good chance that a large number of the guests at the birthday will have also attended your wedding, and she's not totally out of line for thinking people might say that she copied you. But again, you're the one buying your wedding dress from a local non-bridal boutique, so you are running the risk of buying something that other people would want to wear to non-wedding events. I honestly think the main issue your mother-in-law has is the fact that you didn't invite her to dress shopping, and also are brushing her off, rudely, by saying not my problem, not the fact that she has the same dress as you. And OP replies, I actually did suggest that and offered to pay for it. She played fake confused and said why would she need a different dress since she's never going to see me in mine. I'm done talking to her because she asked me to please not contact her anymore. Her kids blocked me on everything, and her husband banned me from the house. Did she play fake confused? Or was she actually confused as she thought the matter was settled? And OP replies, she seemed to be putting on a show because her husband thought it was funny. These people are abusive troublemakers. OP, your spouse is not backing you up and is angry with you. If you do marry him, he will most likely side with them in the future. Why do you want to marry into this situation? Yes, absolutely this. Never marry a man that sides with others over you. Pure disaster. People can think independently. I will not back my wife on everything she does and says, and she won't do it for me either. We are both adults capable of making our own decisions. To blindly follow someone because they're your spouse is just foolish. And our next post is by user WesternEar145, titled, Am I the asshole for telling my dad that if he wanted a son, he should just have one with his wife? My parents are divorced. My younger sister is trans and she is 17. My mum is very supportive. She has transitioned socially and is on hormone blockers. It is insane how much happier she is now, but dad is not at all supportive. He used the old name and calls her his son. He hates it when she wears feminine clothes. It is pretty upsetting. She loves him, he's her favorite person, and she's been trying to win him over. It's hard to watch, honestly. I have been losing all respect I have for him. He can see how much she's hurting and just keeps piling on. I really can't take it anymore. He doesn't care about her at all. She was again trying to convince him, and he said that she was his son and that he'd always wanted a son. It just pissed me off. She was close to crying, and I ended up yelling that he should just have one with his wife if he wanted one so badly. It landed really badly. Dad was upset, stepmom was there, and she looked really hurt too. We ended up leaving shortly after. Here is where I am the asshole. They had been trying to have a child, but they couldn't. It was such a cruel thing for me to say. I'm such an asshole for even thinking about such a thing. It was just mean to hurt them. I really regret it. My mum agrees and she thinks I shouldn't have been cruel and should have found another way to stick up for her. Now in the comments, Atticus French Toast says, not the asshole, because it was a momentary lapse while you were being provoked, and you understand you shouldn't have said it. You were desperate to make your dad stop torturing your sister, and reasoning with him wasn't working. So something horrible came out of your mouth, one time. In contrast, your dad has continually and repeatedly decided to make your sister, his own child, miserable over a long period of time. He's the asshole, and honestly, if he can't have another kid, it's probably for the best. Imagine if they were fortunate to have a boy. OP and sister may end up being completely ignored in favor of the golden son. And OP replies, he would be much nicer and interested in his life. He wouldn't ignore us completely, we'd just be second priority. That was what happened to me. Kinda got nothing to say to this besides, oh honey, good people don't treat you this way. Wow. Then even if you repeatedly rubbed it in his face, you wouldn't be the asshole. It's clear that on top of everything else, he's also a misogynistic person that doesn't believe women are valuable. And maybe warn stepmom that if she can't have children and conform to your father's rigid gender roles, she'll probably get replaced in short order. Your dad seems like that kind of person. I don't think that is unnecessary cruelty, because it sounds like a predictable outcome. Yikes. This is kind of a difficult one. You're absolutely in the right for defending your sister against cruelty, and you should never regret that, and by the sounds of it, your dad kind of deserved a low blow. But this isn't a sub about whether a low blow is justified, despite how often it turns into that. It's about whether someone was an asshole, and that specific line of attack is kind of asshole-ish. That aside, from what's provided, it doesn't sound like your stepmom played a part in your dad's abuse of your sister. She just got caught in the crossfire. If you value the relationship with your stepmom, I would strongly recommend speaking with her alone and apologizing. Just letting her know that you know that it was wrong and that you don't want to hurt her over issues with your dad's cruelty to your sister. Everyone sucks here. I agree, but lean towards OP being not the asshole. I see it more as an acknowledgement that the sister has always been a girl in their eyes, rather than a deliberate act of cruelty to the stepmom. I think the dad is definitely the most sucky of all here, but that doesn't clear OP of hurting an uninvolved third party. That's a dick move. Dad's wife isn't uninvolved in his transphobic abuse of his daughter. She's at least tolerating it based on the post. That's a broad assumption. The post mainly covers OP's dad's behavior and the specific incident. Without more information, I don't think it's fair to assume her opinion or what she has or hasn't done. For all we know, she wanted to interject but couldn't get a word in edgewise. Quote, that's a broad assumption. At the very least, she's chosen to stay with someone who abuses his daughter. This has presumably been going on for years. Is this comment thread right here not peak Reddit? Oh my god, that is peak Reddit. Not the asshole. Your dad is being horrid to your sister, and she is lucky to have you supporting her. You've snapped, and maybe said something you regret, but you were provoked in showing the support that your dad should be. And not the asshole. Your dad is disrespecting your sister. I'm surprised she hasn't cut him off by now. It's unfortunate that they're going through fertility problems, but that's not the only way to have a child. Maybe apologize to your stepmom and say that it wasn't meant as an attack on her fertility, but a heat-of-the-moment attack at your dad for disrespecting your sister's identity. Am I the asshole for calling the police on my flatmate's kid knocking on my door? Disclaimer, not in the USA, English is not my first language. So I, female 22, live in a shared house with the landlord and his 2 sons, and a woman and her daughter. Yesterday, the landlord and his kids were away visiting some family, and the other woman works a crazy schedule. I was sleeping in my room when I was woken up by the kid, female 8, screaming like crazy at about 2 a.m. I figured the mother was not home, so I put on my headphones, but in a few minutes she was banging on my door, still screaming and crying. I panicked, thinking something horrible was going on outside, so I shut myself in my room's bathroom and called the police, and they could hear the screaming on the call, so they came very quickly. It turns out the kid had a nightmare and was really scared, and the paramedics had to give her some medicine to calm her down. Then the police asked me a lot of questions, like if I was the guardian, to explain our living situation, if I knew where the mother was, etc. I told them that I was not aware the kid was alone because the mother has a crazy schedule and I don't know where she works. I provided her phone number, but they couldn't reach her, so they took the kid to the police station. I went back to sleep and woke up to the mother banging on my door and screaming at me for what happened yesterday. She said the police won't give her daughter back and I'm an asshole for calling them for something as silly as a nightmare, that I should have just calmed the kid down instead of making it a huge deal. I told her that it's not my responsibility to take care of her daughter. I barely interact with any of them, and I was not going to open my door to someone screaming like crazy because it could be dangerous. I think it was the right choice to call the police, but I told the situation to my mother, and she says either way, I should have checked on the kid and tried to help, because sharing a house also means helping out with these kind of things. I'm sorry, OP. You're crazy. You are insane. Why did you lock yourself in the bathroom and call the police? I don't know why you did what you did. That is a crazy overreaction when at first you ignored the kid by putting your headphones in. That just tells me that it was a non-situation from the get-go. It was a kid screaming, and as soon as she comes banging on your door asking for help from something, you barricade yourself in the bathroom and call the police? I don't know. I guess there's an argument there for something to do with the mother and leaving the daughter there in the house with all these people that are there to look after her while she's on shift work, and I imagine she needs to make money. But I don't think that's a valid reason for your actions here. I think you wildly overreacted to this situation and caused a lot of damage and harm in this family situation they've got going on. I blame you for this. You're the asshole. Now in the comments, You All Suck 22 says, I find it odd that your immediate response to hearing a crying and screaming child is to lock yourself up and call the police without even attempting to check on the child. This is coming from someone who's child-free, not a mother. Yeah, it's not your kid and not your responsibility, and the mother obviously shouldn't have left the child home alone, quote unquote, but damn, that's some really selfish behavior. I want to say you're the asshole, but I have to lean more towards everyone sucks here. Mother was in the wrong for leaving her kid solo, but you were definitely wrong for not even checking on the kid and just taking care of yourself. And edit, for all those saying, oh, they use crying kids to trap women for sex trafficking, OP literally said it's a shared house that they all live in, and she knew that it was her roommate's kid. So yes, OP is still in the wrong and selfish and an asshole for her actions. Like, what would have happened if there was an intruder or a fire? The kid deals with it on their own until the cops show up? It wasn't remotely acceptable for the parents to leave the kid with only OP there, but this response is horrifyingly selfish. I was afraid that there was something terrible outside, so I left a kid outside my door to handle it themselves. Not a stellar response from anyone. It could have been a spider on the toilet, for frick's sake. I was afraid there was something terrible outside, so I locked my door. Translates to, take the small child and spare me, murderous intruder. You're the asshole. This reminds me of a Stephen King short story, where a man knowingly lets the boogeyman take his toddler son rather than respond to his screams. MCCM says, so you weren't in the wrong for calling the police? But I'm not sure what kind of person leaves a hysterical 8-year-old alone to fend for themselves while they hide in a bathroom. I'm going with you're the asshole, as there's no getting past that for me. I agree with calling the police. Kind of. We all seem to glaze past the part where OP initially put on the headphones to drown the kid out. Clearly OP was not in fear, so I call BS on the reasoning for calling the police. Mum should not have left the kid. However, OP would be hard-pressed to have handled this situation much worse. You're the asshole, and then some. Our next post is by user InfiniteFix5023, titled, Am I the asshole for telling my sister that the adoptive parents have a point for no longer contacting her? My sister gave birth to her twins, boy and girl, in June of 2020. She had been living with me before then after being evicted. I have 3 kids and work full-time, and I told her if she was going to keep her babies, she was going to have to find other living spaces. I have a 2-bedroom, and it's cramped already, and I'm not sacrificing my room to share with her and 2 newborns, and she said okay. When she was 6 months pregnant, she said she was going to give her babies up for adoption and contacted this top adoption agency. They sent her a pamphlet of potential parents. I was shocked, since she never brought up giving them up for adoption. I felt guilty, and told her that if she got a job and paid me $400 a month, maybe we could find a 3-bedroom. She said she doesn't want to be a mum, and she's made up her mind. She ended up choosing a very wealthy couple for her baby. They both made 6 figures and had a very clean, squeaky look to them. I told her they looked stuck up, and she said that she wanted her twins to live an upper-class lifestyle. The agency and couple flew her out to their city in a 5-star hotel for the rest of her pregnancy. It was supposed to be an open adoption, and when my sister came back, they did send pictures once a month by mail. When the twins were about 6 months, all of a sudden they ghosted my sister, deleted all their social media handles to probably create new ones, and even moved. My sister had a breakdown, and I was equally shocked. The agency brushed her off and said the parents have the right to do whatever they want, and told her not to call again unless she was pregnant. For weeks, I pitied my sister until she got drunk and told me something. She said that she texted the adoptive mom and that she needed $2,000 because she wants to go back to school or something. And the mom told her that she doesn't feel comfortable with my sister messaging her asking for money, and my sister told her that they're beyond rich, and $2,000 is what they spend in a day, so they're not hurting, and that's when they ghosted her. That changed things for me, and I told my sister that she shouldn't have done that, and that maybe they had a point. She started crying and is still giving me the cold shoulder, and I want to know, am I the asshole? I feel like you're not the asshole for saying that to her. I feel like she had that coming with the way that she's acted in this situation. That's unacceptable behavior, the agency agrees, and the agency is going to work in its own best interests. Obviously, these adoptive parents are going to continue to work in the best interests of themselves and of the children. If they have an abusive mother that wants to stick around in the picture and they're not obligated to keep it an open adoption, why would they put up with her behavior and continue to enable it or allow it? And what you said to her, OP, is not the worst thing you could have said either. So really, you let her down gracefully. You got the point across without hurting her feelings all too much. That open adoption was a privilege, and she just set that privilege on fire. Let that be a lesson to her not to do this again, to people, or especially to adoptive families like that if she ever does it again. So my vote is not the arsehole. Now in the comments, MSB334 says, not the arsehole. She chose rich parents so she could get something out of it. The adoptive parents realized this and went no contact. Hopefully she realizes her mistake and doesn't pull this if her biological kids ever try to contact her. And OP replies, that's what I thought too. I told her to choose another couple that seemed sweeter, but she only cared about money. And edit for those confused, there's a lot of options to choose from in the book they send you, and my top choice sadly wasn't chosen. I hope they do end up adopting a baby one day, whoever they are. They seemed very chill. My sister said she wanted her kids to have rich parents. I don't think choosing a couple that seemed sweeter really would have helped the situation. Even the sweetest couple ever would be questioning her motives and ability to maintain healthy boundaries after asking for money like that, which I also suspect was a greater amount than $2,000. And yeah, I have a feeling there was more than just asking for $2,000 that led them to not only cut off contact, but delete their socials and move. You were definitely not the arsehole. And OP replies, me too, but sadly I think I shut her out and she won't ever tell me the full truth. She's a very impulsive spender, so I see her asking for way more than that. Maybe that was the last straw and they actually sent her money before in the past. I'm not sure. Well, they funded her life when she was living in the 5-star hotel, so I'm certain they gave her way more than that. Not the arsehole. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she expected them to just give her money because of them putting her up in a 5-star hotel. I bet she got spoiled and didn't like losing that lifestyle. And yeah, not the arsehole. It sounds like sis was hoping the adoptive parents would be a cash cow for her, but once the adoption is final, they hold all the cards. Our next post is by user Wizardad, titled, Am I the arsehole for not wanting to change our newborn's diapers at night? So my partner and I have a 5-week-old baby who is exclusively breastfed. He will wake up 3 to 4 times a night to nurse for 20 to 40 minutes per time. My argument is that she's already awake to nurse, so she should do the diaper changes too. I've offered to do half the diaper changes, but that's not enough for her. My partner thinks I should do all the nighttime diaper changes since she is breastfeeding. Her argument is that since she's nursing day and night, it's only fair. She says she needs to go to the bathroom, drink water, etc. while I'm changing the diaper. In her view, I'm often grouchy, need to be asked multiple times to get up, and sometimes argue if he even needs to be changed. And some more relevant information. We're both on paternal leave now, and when I go back to work in construction, I need a full 8 hours sleep. She will be on leave for the next 18 months. We go to bed at 9 p.m, and when I get up with our dogs at 6 a.m, she's up with the baby an hour or two later. So Reddit, am I the asshole? Why did you come here? Why? Why did you come to ask this question? It's so obvious you're the asshole. You're on paternal leave right now. You literally have no other excuse to be fulfilling your parental duties. It's not like you're working a 16-hour-a-day job, constantly, 7 days a week. And even then, you would be an asshole for taking those hours because you're neglecting your family. There is no universe, there is no exception, there is nothing you can say to not be the asshole in this situation. So yes, you're the asshole. I don't know why you don't realize that. Now in the comments, Topaz Monk says, hardcore you're the asshole. Your wife is exhausted, physically, and due to lack of sleep. You have no excuse, especially while you're on parental leave. She does need to use the bathroom, drink water, whatever, to take care of herself, so she can take care of your son. Parenthood is about shared responsibilities and partnership. You need to grow up and share the burden. Your wife is asking for help during an extremely mentally, emotionally, and physically fragile time. You have a brand new baby. If for no other reason than being a good husband in a time where she needs support, why would you reject that? Why do you expect her to shoulder all of it? Are you trying to train her for when you go back to work? I have bad news for you, Chief. The "but I need 8 hours of sleep" excuse is incredibly selfish, and you are due for a rude awakening. This is the time that you and your wife should be bonding, as partners, as warriors locked shoulder to shoulder for the incredibly difficult job of raising a kid. It should be a time for you to reaffirm your commitments to each other, with compassion and support. This period will absolutely shape the tone and future of your marriage as well, and you're planting really selfish seeds that tend to bloom into lovely turd blossoms down the path. There's only room for one baby in your family, and it's not you. It's time to be a dad. It's hard, but tough crap. This is your moment to decide what kind of father and ultimately husband you want to be. I wish I could upvote this comment 1,000 times. This phase 100% sets the tone for the relationship going forward, the way most tough things do. After this, she's going to know whether OP is in it as a team for the long haul or if he's just in it for himself. Yes, this. I've had 2 babies with my ex-husband. He's never gotten up to help with feeding and support. I'd even hand him the baby to hold so I could have a shower, and he would be knocking on the door to hand the baby back literally 5 minutes in. His excuse? Well, you have the boobs. Let me tell you, this relationship didn't last. The best Peter says, you're the asshole. Man the F up and help do your part, dude. Holy crap. None of us have ever liked getting up and changing the kids' diapers, but you're a father now. Act like it. Man, I don't understand some people. When they decide to have a kid, do they think it's a cakewalk? Do they think it's going to be like in the movies where everything is colorful with soft light and smiling babies? Parenthood is hard, and is a joint responsibility. You have to sacrifice some sleep, time, money, and headspace. Why have a kid if you're not ready? My God, that poor woman. You're the asshole. Unexposed is by user, Am I the Asshole Dancing Half Naked? Titled, Am I the asshole for dancing half naked in my living room, leading to my boyfriend and his family seeing me? This is so embarrassing, but I can't take it anymore. I have to know if I'm in the wrong here. I need to apologize if so. So I, 21 female, was told by my boyfriend Nate, 26 male, that I'd get the house to myself for the weekend. He said he had to go visit his parents to take care of a property-related issue. I was pretty excited to have the house to myself because I have been living with Nate since I was 19 and I missed living alone. Though Nate is the love of my life and in no way a trouble to live with. I had this tradition of spending a lot of my weekends baking while in lingerie. I don't know, it makes me feel pretty. And yes, I know it's stupid, but it just makes me stupid happy. With music and dancing. Super embarrassing to admit, but I also do silly things like pretending I'm a Victoria's Secret model or a singer, and I sing along, loudly. I mentioned this because this means the house is usually a mess. My dresses are all over, and the music is super loud, which is obviously not okay. I hadn't done that in a long time because Nate hates loud music and he's not a fan of my cupcakes. So I decided to do it this weekend. So it's Sunday, and I put on What a Feeling by One Direction, and it's super loud. I'm only wearing lingerie, the Victoria's Secret kind, so it's lacy AF, which I regret so much looking back. My boyfriend used his key to open the door, and I didn't hear him come in because, like I said, it's loud in the house, and I'm also in the kitchen/living room area. Apparently he wanted to surprise me. Nate brought his mum, dad, and his sister's 2 kids, only like 10 male, I think. They come in, and there I am, frozen in a dance pose like an idiot. I quickly ran to our room yelling, "Sorry, wasn't expecting anyone," and was putting on clothes when Nate came in. He was so angry. He said I was acting like a child and that I embarrassed him. His parents wanted Nate to drop them back ASAP, refusing to stay, and his mum called me a lot of names and said the kids had seen everything, and that made me guilty AF. Here's why I'm losing sleep over this. On one hand, I didn't know they would come. I locked the door too, so I feel like I didn't do anything wrong. I planned on cleaning up my mess before Nate came home too. Also, Nate and his mum insulted me a lot. But when you look at it from their perspective, I was behaving like an immature person. The house was a mess, I looked like a mess, and there were baking supplies scattered. Nate just wanted to surprise me and do something nice. Nate is still not completely talking to me, and I don't know how to face his family. And I also know his sister told him to make me behave or something, so I feel like I should apologize before making things get worse, but I can't decide for sure if I'm in the wrong here, so I need your help. Thank you for reading. And edit to add, Nate's family is also really conservative, and he was brought up like that as well. Someone mentioned I should have added this in. Also, I'm from the United States, since a lot of people asked. I personally don't think you've done anything wrong here. They're just overreacting and being assholes about this because they can be. Like, what other valid reasons do they have to be angry in this situation? I feel like they just want to yell at you for something. And if that's what you want to put up with, then continue the relationship with this guy. But if it were me, I'd be having a serious talk about their behavior and his reaction to this. So, not the asshole. I don't think you could be the asshole for this one. Now in the comments, Tonka141 says, "Not the asshole. You should never be embarrassed for dancing like an idiot to a song you like. Who cares that you were in underwear? No one was at home at the time. Oh, and giving you the silent treatment is a huge red flag. It's emotional abuse." And OP replies, "Thank you. I feel a bit relieved. Oh, and to be fair, it's not the silent treatment. He's talking to me, but I can tell he's still angry." Nate is just a bunch of red flags wearing a human skin suit, okay? Throughout your post, you talk about how pretty this makes you feel, and how stupid happy you are whilst doing it, all while apparently feeling ashamed of how wrong and immature it is. He has made you feel as though something that makes you happy and is totally harmless is something to be ashamed of. A partner that insults you and makes you feel ashamed of yourself is not a partner. Yeah. Especially since the reason OP did this while he was out is because she wouldn't be able to do it while he was there. So she's having to sideline this part of her in the first place, and then he's disapproving that she was doing it at all. Meanwhile, he's 26 and she's 21, and she moved in when she was 19 and he would have been 24. That's not a major age gap later, but it's a pretty big experience gap at the start, especially with Nate waving so many red flags of disapproval and control. Seriously, I could, and may or may not have, dance around the house in my underwear to a song I'm making up as I go about. My cat and my boyfriend might raise an eyebrow, but he wouldn't make me feel bad about it. As long as I'm having fun, he says. If you have to wait for him to leave to do something you enjoy doing in your own damn home, there's something wrong. And I can think of almost no instances where I'd be mad coming home to a laughing, dancing, lingerie-wearing, baking, happy girlfriend, yet this dude goes on the attack, insulting her because of his and his parents' weird-ass sanctimonious hang-ups. Not the asshole. Nate is a total asshole here. He tells you that you'll have the apartment to yourself and then decides to surprise you with what exactly? A visit from his parents? Wow, what a great surprise. He has no right to be upset at you. You didn't know anyone was going to be home. He also has no right to insult you. Never in a relationship should your significant other insult you. And really, the best case scenario here is still a crappy surprise. At least warn someone so they can clean up around the place before you just invite company over. Wait, your boyfriend is angry at you because he walked in on you? Am I tracking this correctly? No, not the asshole. You're allowed to do what you want in your house. Why would he even bring people by without giving a heads up anyways? That's just so weird. And please don't get me started on Mum. She's off her rocker. You don't get to insult someone in their home. You don't want to show? Send a text before just walking in. There is so much audacity here, I just don't even know. What I do know is you owe nobody an apology. You did nothing wrong. They owe you many. Their behavior was completely and utterly unacceptable, and you need to sit down and really evaluate and see what is happening here. This is in no way a normal, acceptable, or even reasonable response to their error. Am I the asshole for telling my cousin that her social media presence is pretentious and weird? My 32 male, cousin 27 female is a PhD student. Has been for about 4 years now, I think. And honestly, in the time since she's been at college in general, her personality has changed, but even more so with this new school. One of the ways I've seen it is on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. She literally only talks about grad school and academics and theory. This is what she calls it, and to be honest, it's all very confusing to me, and I don't know how to describe it, and just stuff like that. There are barely any updates on her life, and when there are, it's still academic stuff. Think pictures of her and co-workers at conferences, meeting with a theory reading group, department happy hours, etc. So when she's not discussing hardcore academic texts on her social media with other professors and grad students, she's sharing pictures of her at all these academic events. She just recently posted a big thing about how she's excited to present at MLA this year. I couldn't even tell you what that is. Honestly, all us cousins used to be very close, but now all of us really can't relate to her as we're not exactly a family that did college and stuff like that. She's not like that in person at all and just wants to hang out, but her social media tends to be on our minds when we talk to her and it affects things, I think. Anyway, she was at home for a couple weeks this summer, and a bunch of us cousins were hanging out, having some drinks, and every now and then, if one of us got a bunch of notifications, we'd check our phones. No big deal to any of us, as no one was being rude and only on their phone. She got a text and looked at her phone and smiled and laughed a bit. So I said, "Get anything good?" And she said, "Yeah, a friend sent me a really funny meme. Here, I'll pull it up." And I said, "Is it going to be the stuff you're always posting and sharing that none of us will get? Because I don't want to see it if it's that pretentious crap." She said no, but then said never mind, and got all quiet. I asked her what was wrong, and she says, "I didn't realize you think I'm pretentious." And I said, "Well, really it's your social media. You only ever post about stuff barely anyone understands, and you're always talking about your academic life and all these things you go to. It absolutely comes across as pretentious and weird, like you're obsessed with academics, and you think that having a couple of degrees makes you better." Most of the cousins laughed at that, while two said to cool it and to keep that for when it's just the rest of us. She just quietly finished her drink and left for the evening without saying goodbye to anyone. She won't answer my texts now. I feel bad, but I was just teasing her and letting her know that her social media makes her come off as a pretentious asshole. OP, come on, man. That was uncalled for. Yeah, it might be on the minds of you guys, but that's not something to let out and publicly embarrass her in front of the entire family like that. This honestly, at surface level, reads like you're insanely jealous of her. Like any normal person that isn't jealous of their cousin just thinks, hey look, she's doing well, she's academically inclined and she's really socially inclined, she's mixing those two together and I'm happy for her. Instead, you choose to just stew on that, and you let it just bubble up inside, and you choose to attack her? For what? Going to college? Being successful? Being socially successful? She's done nothing wrong here. She's done you no wrong. There is no reason that you attack her like this, yet you do. You have some serious insecurities and jealousy when it comes to this. You are the one with the problem. You're the asshole. Now in the comments, Princess of Perky says, "You're the asshole." She actually sounds pretty cool. It also understands like you don't understand what she's studying or talking about, so instead of being a normal caring person and asking her about it, you call her pretentious. A lot of people use social media to talk about their work. It sounds like she's doing well and has a lot going for her, and you sound a bit jealous. I actually encouraged my best friend to get Twitter and use it exactly like this, and she was headhunted for her first and dream job because of it. This, OP, MLA, is the Modern Languages Association, the annual conference where people studying languages, literatures, communications, library studies, and pedagogy go to keep up with their fields and, most importantly, get jobs. Depending on her field and which social media they tend to use, posting about her thoughts and work, especially in the context of MLA, could get her noticed and hired. This is just one example that highlights your ignorance. Regardless of the job market, which is tough for academics, when people go to grad school to study a project, they're doing a deep dive into that subject for a limited amount of time, and are expected to literally become obsessed with their work. I mean, you kind of have to successfully complete a graduate degree, which requires that you research and write a literal book on a topic. Each seminar class you take requires that you research and write a 25-page paper on a topic. Oral exams require that you know everything about a topic area. You have your subject oozing out of your pores. Of course you're going to talk about it on social media. If your cousin was going on and on about a sport that you knew nothing about, I'm guessing you wouldn't have an issue with it, and it wouldn't be pretentious. But because it's an academic discipline, and we live in a country that values anti-intellectualism to the point that it's literally killing us by the hundreds of thousands, or did you think that the pandemic denial and anti-vaxxing were anything other than hysterical anti-intellectualism? Thinking science is a belief or optional in any way is exactly that. It's apparently okay to call people interested in matters of the intellect pretentious. By the way, pretentious, which is related to the word pretend, means something trying to boost their importance by pretending to know or be more than they actually are. Your cousin isn't pretending. She's actually acquiring the knowledge that she's talking about, and busy acquiring the credentials to be an expert in that area of knowledge. She's not pretending, you're just using the word wrong. You're the asshole, bigly. And back to the post, OP posts an update and says, "Well, I'm an asshole, a big one. You all have given me a lot to think about, and you know what? You guys are right. I'm not trying to earn sympathy or anything here, but reading through your comments and seeing other people's perspectives have made me realize I was a real problem here. I have apologized to my cousin, showed her this thread, and we're talking while she's reading through it. We are not 100% okay, and I didn't expect us to be. I hurt her, but we're working on it. Cousin is still deciding whether or not she wants to comment under her Reddit account since so many people were asking about her. She's not sure if she wants to identify herself under her account, which is very similar to her full name." Our next post is by user Foolish Fool, titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my fiancé to get her insecurities in check and grow up after she humiliated my coworker? Recently, I, 25 male, got engaged to my amazing fiancé, 24 female, Amy. I was the happiest I have ever been when Amy said yes, and was nothing but excited for our wedding. We started planning the venues, the dates, and the invites. When talking about who to invite, we both agreed to invite our co-workers, as we've worked in our respective jobs for years and like them all. As I checked off that list, Amy spoke up and said everyone from my job can come, except my work friend Tally, 26 female. Tally is also one of my close friends, so this surprised me that Amy didn't want to invite her. She has met Tally multiple times, and there didn't seem to be any issues. When I asked why, she said she just doesn't like her and finds our friendship uncomfortable, saying she thinks that Tally is the type of person to try to sway taken men and be the center of attention. After talking some more to see where she got this idea, it turned out this was based on nothing but Tally's looks, as even Amy admitted that Tally is always very kind to her. But still, Amy is adamant about Tally not going and said that she makes her insecure. Amy is a beautiful woman, so I don't know why she feels this way. I told Amy that if it makes her feel comfortable not having Tally at the wedding, then that's fine, but before invitations go out, I wanted to speak to her privately to let her know to save embarrassment. Amy agreed, and that was really that. We didn't speak on the matter after. A week or so later, I went into work and Tally started to ignore me, only really talking if it was work-related. I was confused as it isn't just her. Our co-workers have started to ignore her and acting strange to me. So I contacted her boyfriend, only for him to be sarcastic on the phone. I asked what the problem was when he asked if I actually didn't know what happened. He then filled me in. Turned out, a few days earlier, Amy came to my work on my day off with invitations. I had no idea she even made them yet, and handed everyone an invite in front of Tally, then saying to Tally, "You aren't invited. Women like you aren't welcome." Which has sparked everyone suggesting she is my other woman. Since then, she's been harassed by some guys at work and shunned by the women. She's now looking for another job. This pissed me off and I apologized profusely as I didn't know. When I got home that night, I confronted Amy about this and she denied it at first, but then told me that she did it, but it is now not an issue because she's quitting her job. I flipped on her, saying how she clearly didn't trust me to say it and that she crossed a line doing all of this behind my back. She didn't see the problem and got upset, asking me why I'm so mad. Me responding, "If we are really going to get married, get your insecurities in check and grow up." I've been staying at a friend's place since, but have had texts from Amy, her friends, and her mother saying I was an asshole for this and that Amy doesn't deserve this treatment. Am I the asshole? And edit, I should have explained better 2 things. 1. I have made many attempts to speak to Tally privately to find out what was happening prior to contacting her boyfriend. She brushed me off by saying she either had work to do or that there was nothing to talk about. No one would really speak to me, so I contacted her boyfriend as a last resort. Her boyfriend says he is going to pass on to Tally what I said to him on the phone. And 2, the wedding is currently on hold. That is also why I'm staying at my friend's. I need some distance to figure stuff out. I made the post because of all the texts. Edit 2. Jesus, this blew up, and I must say thank you to everyone for the advice you're giving me. But there is one thing I must clear up. The whole suggestion that I may have cheated on Amy with Tally. All I can ask is, can people of the opposite sex not be friends without anything untoward happening? Nothing has or ever will happen with Tally, no feelings, nothing adult, absolutely nothing. Tally is happy and in love. Her boyfriend is someone I also consider a close friend. I was happy with Amy prior to this, and Tally is more like a sister to me. I find it pretty disturbing that people are even suggesting that I did something with Tally. Ask yourself this. Why in God's green earth would I let and encourage Amy to meet Tally in the first place if anything had happened? That would be messed up beyond belief. Also, I don't work in an office. I have no idea where people are getting this idea from, since I never said where or what industry I work in. I work in a retail chain. Nothing special. And to answer another question, what am I planning to do about Tally? Unfortunately, due to what Amy has done, all I can really do is damage control. Of course, I'm planning to explain to everyone what has happened. I do not want Tally to be going through this. She's a genuinely kind person who does not deserve any of this. I'm actually on my way back to speak to our boss at the moment to see what can be done. Tally's boyfriend is also saying he will speak to her on my behalf and see if he can get her to talk to me. Hopefully I will have an update by tomorrow. I personally think your girlfriend was just evil in this situation doing that. She was told not to do it, yet she went ahead and was malicious anyway. She points it out as being an issue that she's upset or concerned about, yet instead of letting you go and deal with it, she goes and paints Tally out to be this terrible person who's ruining your marriage. Tally did nothing to deserve that treatment. Tally sounds like an amazing person. I genuinely would question whether I'd want to be with someone like your fiancé had something like this happen to me. I don't blame you for taking all of that time off, and I don't think you're an asshole for telling her that her insecurities and her actions are wrong, and they've led to a lot of damage in this situation. I do think she needs to get her insecurities in check, because she did humiliate your coworker, but at the same time, she also needs to get herself in check, and question whether her actions are that of someone that wants to continue this relationship. Are her values really in line with yours? So yeah, gonna go not the arsehole for this one, OP. Now in the comments, John's other account 7 says, "Not the arsehole, red flags everywhere. I'd put your wedding on hold, this behavior won't improve. Not the arsehole, all those red flags do not lead to the circus. Amy is a bully, capricious, and jealous woman. I can't imagine doing this at a professional setting. Or ever. Run. Lamau this. Just run. Run, boy, run." Like, she admitted she based this on the girl's looks. What kind of mean girl Lindsay Lohan bullcrap is this? Full stop, just run. Seriously though, she literally admitted to OP that there's nothing wrong with Tally and that this is based off of looks. This isn't even about OP having a work wife, a potential affair, or just Tally being a jerk. It is just about looks. And instead of letting OP talk to Tally and discuss what was happening, Amy went to his job and made her out to be a mistress. Holy immature Batman! This is ridiculous. OP, I'm not going to say make your way out faster than the Roadrunner on steroids, since this needs to be a serious discussion, but with the way she's acting, I'd be seriously questioning if she's ready for marriage. And Punk Rock Cockblock says, "Your fiancé planned how she would humiliate your friend after she forced you into not inviting her to your wedding. Your fiancé is an insecure, jealous child. Why do you want to marry this person? Not the arsehole. Utterly not the arsehole. She hurt Tally because of her baseless jealousy and made her ostracized and eventually quit her job. She deprived her from working opportunities and made her lose contact with her friends from work. Those are very serious accusations, and she can't go behind your back and ruin people's lives. I'd be worried about what else she's capable of doing and reconsider the wedding. Who knows? Maybe it occurred for a reason, so you'll see this side of her before the wedding and not afterwards. I'd be livid if I were you. This is outright cruel. I also wonder if Amy is the one who's cheating, but she wants to shift the blame on OP so she feels like she's justified. When I was accused of being the other woman by a friend, it turned out to be projection. She was the one cheating. She also became an ex-friend the instant I found out about it. She told my mum. I was in my 40s. Because I don't put up with that crap. Our next post is by user Gambling Stepson TA. Titled, "Am I the asshole for making my girlfriend's son give me his gambling winnings? I, 44 male, have been with my girlfriend, 40 female, for several years now. She has one child, a son who recently turned 18. He and I get along really well, at least for the most part. But recently, he and I had our first blowout fight, and I'm wondering if I was wrong. What happened was that we were returning home from a summer trip. My girlfriend decided that we should stop at a casino near the border of our home state, as she enjoys gambling. Maybe a little too much, but that's a different post. We ended up getting a hotel room at the casino for a night. For a lot of it, my girlfriend's son and I just hung out and watched a CSI marathon, but we eventually ended up joining his mom on the casino floor. I gave the boy $100 and I told him that he should go make me some money. Eventually, I met up with my girlfriend, his mother, and he came up a little later to both of us with a cash waiver for about $1,100. He looked really proud of his earnings. I told him to turn his cash for another 100, but he responded, "No, I think I'll keep this." And I answered him, "No, you didn't earn that," and took the money and explained that all winnings between us were communal. I gave him another $100. I think that he had no claim to his gambling winnings in the first place, since it came from my money. My girlfriend is actually with me on this, but her son is really mad at me right now. Probably the angriest he has ever been, feeling like I stole his winnings, and it's had me thinking that maybe I'm in the wrong. Ding ding ding, I think you are in the wrong, OP, and I think your feelings are correct here. Just because your girlfriend is enabling your awful behavior doesn't mean that it's correct. You were literally stealing $1,000 off of this kid after I think he gave you the $100 back. Just because it started off from your $100 doesn't mean that it's all your money. You didn't earn that. You're a piece of trash for taking that money off of him because there were no agreements like that made. You were literally just stealing money because it's right there and you can, and he can't really do anything to stop you. That's an abuse of your power. That is not right. That's a good way to lose a relationship with your son of your girlfriend. You were definitely the asshole for this one. Now in the comments, Waves and Mountains says, "You're the asshole. You gave the $100 to the kid with no expectation stated to pay it back. It wasn't a loan. And even if it was, he's a frickin' kid and you should know better. You have no rights to the money that you gave away." I want to know if he actually said, "Go make me more money," when he gave him the $100. In my mind, that's the only thing that possibly makes him not the asshole. If he sets the expectation from the beginning, like he says he did, that it was his money and he was just giving the fun of messing around at the casino, not the money, then against my will, I think I have to argue he is right. Mind you, that's semantics, and he should at the very least split it. Then he's even more of an asshole in my mind if those were his words and he genuinely meant it. You don't go to a casino and employ your girlfriend's kid to make you money. In all likelihood, the kid loses it. Then what? Do you hold it over his head too? OP is just mad they lost money and the son didn't. I don't think asking for the original $100 back is a huge ask, but this whole thing is an asshole move. I agree that it makes him even more of an asshole. Go make me money? Who says something like that? An asshole. You're the asshole. Yeah, it's your money, but he was the one who went out there and made it into more money. He should just give you $100 back and keep the rest. You're the asshole, exactly. At the very most, only the $100 was your money and everything else was his winnings. If a casino gives you $10 bonus to play with, like some casinos will, they can't take your winnings. It's not theirs, and it's not everyone's at the casinos either. The same applies to you. You gave it to him. If he lost it, he wasn't going to owe you $100, was he? No. So why does he owe it to you when he won? Our next post is by user Commercial Machine 98, titled, "Am I the asshole for greatly increasing my husband's chores and dismissing his complaints after he called me a homemaker?" For some context, I work in my own startup. Husband John works in a movie theater. Before I started my company, we both had a similar income, but now I earn around 5 times as much as him. The chore dynamic at home was always heavily skewed. I'm very neat and like cooking, so I handled the lion's share of chores on top of my job. After the company started growing, John invested himself more in chores because he was staying at home due to the movie theaters being closed. His workplace reopened a few months ago, and he immediately stopped doing most chores. I have been lenient and doing more than my share, since he comes home every day exhausted and complaining. After work, he does nothing but leisure, totally overlooking the fact that I manage our household on top of running my company. I'm kind of a doormat sometimes, so I let it go because I wanted to be kind to John. Last weekend, he crossed a line. I work 7 days a week, John has weekends off, and he was playing video games all day while I was working, and he came to ask me when lunch would be ready. I told him I'm very busy with work and asked him if he can cook for once. He declined. then complained that it was so much easier in his grandfather's time when their homemaker didn't do anything other than her duties. I exploded. We had the biggest screaming match in our lives, with him calling himself the breadwinner of the household, repeatedly hiding behind the claim that he goes out to work, as opposed to me working from home, which means I'm a housewife, duh. I steamrolled his claims by pointing out that I earn much more money than him, I work longer hours, and still do all the chores. I told him to quit his job and dedicate all his time to chores, since he's so enamored with the simpler times of homemakers and breadwinners. And even if he became unemployed, our financial situation wouldn't change. He acted appalled. On Monday, I gave him a list of chores to do. About 2 to 3 hours of chores daily. He constantly complains, and I just reply with, "Quit your job." I spent years doing all the chores on top of my job, but he whines at the prospect of doing just half. Tuesday night, he told me he refused to do the chores and I couldn't force him. I shouted him down into submission, telling him that I spent our entire common life picking up the ball that he keeps dropping, and that his choice to work an unskilled job for pocket change does not preclude him from helping me, the breadwinner, keep this household in shape. Yesterday, I locked up his PS5 in our safe and changed the combination. This is not in my nature. I'm usually polite and soft-spoken, and I feel like an asshole when I see him looking like a sad puppy and whining that he's tired. But I just snapped. I feel like I don't have a choice. If I let John do nothing and consider himself the breadwinner who deserves to come home to a clean house and a warm meal through no effort of his own, I would lock myself into a life of servitude. Am I an asshole? I do wonder why you want to go to so much effort, and is this relationship with him worth it for you if he isn't going to change? I get that times were different, and I think you got married before your startup started coming off of the ground, and your expectations of each other were different. You were happier to take on an unfair share of chores back then. Now that the dynamic has changed, and you require him to take on his fair share now, he is not allowing that. It seems like this isn't working out for you. He's perfectly happy throwing tantrums and trying to keep the status quo. But for you, this seems to be tearing you up inside, and you're lashing out and attacking your partner. To many people from the outside in, rightfully so, a lot of people would say he deserves that. But I don't know if you deserve to be putting yourself through all of this torment. You know your husband better than we do, but, how long can this go on? Is it worth staying in this relationship if he's not going to change? How many years are you going to sink into this, and what do you get out of it? What does he provide that others can't? So no, I don't think you're an asshole for greatly increasing your husband's chores and dismissing his complaints after he called you a homemaker, but I think you're being an asshole to yourself in this situation for the way that you're going about this. It seems like the conclusion of all of these actions aren't going to make you or him happy. Now in the comments, "Oh my girl, you are most definitely not the asshole. In fact, don't you dare take even the tiniest step back. Hold your ground as if your life depended on it." And edit, "I would very much like to know the gender of the people who will vote either you're the asshole or everyone sucks here." Jumping in the top comment to say, "Go girl, get him told. Breadwinner is such a cliche as it infers that's the man in the relationship. Well, not anymore. It's the person who earns more and works more. This is no longer a male-dominated position. He either works up or toes the line. My boyfriend acts the same way. Completely dismisses my work just because I work from home. He thinks we rely on his money when he barely contributes anything. I make way more money and even recently got promoted, so now we both get benefits. His job is casual and on a contractual basis, so he sits on his ass most of the year collecting EI and does not get any benefits. Also, is the opposite of breadwinner soup loser? Your husband is a soup loser, OP. Not the asshole. It sounds like you've been picking up his slack for a while. How dare he make claims about you being a homemaker when you're apparently bringing in the majority of the money? Working from home is work. I doubt working at the movie theater is very lucrative. Stop picking up his slack. He's being disrespectful of you, your job, and everything you do for your home. And OP replies, I know, right? This is exactly the thought that sent me over the metaphorical line. The answer is that since I'm at home all day, and I get to choose all my hours since I'm the boss, while he's at his workplace all day, that's all he considered. The fact I work more hours and earn a lot more money never crossed his mind, I guess. That's also how he'd justify not doing chores to himself. I concluded that after thinking on it a while. He did his part by doing his job, so he expects to come home and do nothing more since he put in his hours. The fact that he had this unspoken belief that I am his housewife, that really grated my nerves like nothing else ever did. Did you know that he was sexist when you married him? He'll get worse if you ever have kids, you know. I hope that the sex is amazing because you're getting screwed, not the asshole. And OP replies, to be honest, it is. I hope at some point you realize that good sex isn't remotely worth sacrificing your self-respect and mental health. Girl, you're dickmatized then. He should be a friend with benefits at best. You need a therapist who will help you address your trauma you mentioned. People are worthy of love at any size. You need to start to like yourself. You sound amazing. You are crushing it with your business. You should not be afraid of being alone. Dating sucks. It's true. I used to dread the idea of wading back into the pool if my husband predeceases me, as I have the same social anxiety issues. And then I realized I was really okay with just being me and by myself. He infantilized himself. You having a backbone does not make you an asshole, not the asshole. And if this story is real, you're honestly just wasting your time with him. You can find someone who bangs you just as well, and if they're a worthwhile partner, then date them too. Good sex isn't worth being disrespected by a lazy misogynist like this. You won't be able to correct his behavior by punishing him like a child. This is only solidifying your role as his mummy instead of his girlfriend. I'm honestly surprised you can still find him attractive enough to have sex when he's so useless in your relationship. He will not step up his act. These are his values. You can't fix or change him. And now back to the post, OP puts, edit. I've been reading through your comments for hours. Sorry if my replies dried up. Today has been emotionally hard. But I promise I read and pondered every thoughtful comment that you shared with me. Thank you. I have come to the conclusion that I was right to stand up for myself when John repeatedly belittled my work and achievements, and I think we all agree that his attitude reeked of machismo. A lot of very kind people have told me I am not the asshole, and thank you. But I'm now convinced I was an asshole as well. For years, I felt like our relationship was somewhat unequal, but I was choosing to overlook the flaws because of a myriad of reasons. I let frustrations and resentment build up and explode. And while I think John acted very poorly in the first place, I overreacted in self-righteous rage. I treated John very poorly in return. Isn't that how wars start? Petty disagreements and skirmishes, mounting anger on both sides until both fighters believe that they are righteous. I had been stewing in anger for days, and that is horribly unhealthy. And that anger is years of bottled feelings spilling up over something not worth that sort of reaction. I will sit John down tonight and have a long talk. I will show him this thread, and we will decide how we want to proceed. The people that we are now are so different from the people we were when we got married and we started dating. Thank you for your input. It has been difficult, but therapeutic to process all this. Am I the asshole for not showing up for a dinner with my sister when I found out she was planning to set me up? I, 34 male, am a single dad of 2 amazing kids, my 18-year-old son and my 14-year-old daughter. 14 years ago, my fiancée and the mother of my children died suddenly, and it destroyed me. She was everything. We were supposed to grow old together, raise our babies together, and share a life. She was my best friend for 15 years, and my love for 6. After she died, my family expected me to date again, find love again, and marry someone and find another mother for my kids. But I have never had any interest in meeting someone else. I focus on being a good dad and enjoying my life the best I can, but I never wanted to move on, and I don't feel like that's something that will ever happen for me. About 2 years after my fiance died though, my sister started getting pushier. She told me I needed to find someone who could make me happy, that I deserved better than staying single for the rest of my life. I told her it's my choice, and if that's what feels right to me, then it's what I'll do. For the most part, she lets it go once I say no, but she brings it up often enough that it has affected our closeness. 2 years ago, we stopped talking for months after she brought my kids into this plot to set me up, and was disappointed they didn't want to take any part in it. When I found out, I was furious, and I thought that was the last of it when we reconciled because she saw I was willing to not speak to her, and her apology was the most genuine it had ever been. Then last week, she told me she wanted to hang out. We were supposed to go to dinner in her favorite place, but a few days before, I found out she was actually trying to set me up with this woman she knows. Once I found out, I just refused to show up. That dinner was Thursday, and yesterday she was furious that I hadn't shown. She said they had been waiting for me. I asked her who they was. She said she had brought someone along for me to meet, and I told her I no longer trust her after this. My parents sent me a message last night that it was rude to be a no-show, and I should understand that they just worry I'm putting my life on hold and denying myself happiness. Am I the asshole? I feel like no, you're not the asshole in this situation. If you don't want to move on from your wife's passing and you're happy with the way that your life is going, that's completely your choice, and you shouldn't be forced to move on from that when it is completely up to you where you proceed from here. She's heard you say that to her multiple times and ignored you. She even tried to trap you. You knew it was a trap. You told her you're not coming, and she has the audacity to turn this on you and say that you're the asshole for this. That is quite an unacceptable thing to do, and I'm gonna have to say she's the asshole for doing this, and as are your parents for agreeing with and enabling that behavior. So, not the asshole OP. Now in the comments, Winds of Winter Please says, "Wow, not the asshole. Your sister is not respecting your choice. I wouldn't have showed up either." And OP replies, "I don't think any of my family particularly like or respect my choice. The others push less because they know I will not tolerate someone trying to go against my boundaries and wishes. Apparently I now need to stop talking to or seeing my sister because she will never learn." It's great that your kids get it and didn't take part in her plans. I don't get why she can't respect your choice. She doesn't get to decide what makes you happy. This all the way. It enrages me when people try to use kids in their idiotic plots. Particularly this one. "Hey kids, want me to get you a new mummy?" No. Just hell no. Not the asshole. You are not ready to date and they should respect that. I get that your family wants you to be happy, but this is not helpful at all. I also hate the implication that you can't be happy without a significant other. And OP replies, "I know it bothers them that I spent my 20s and now into my 30s without a significant other or even dating. But you know, I'm living my life the way I want. I don't see myself ever dating, but that should be my choice. I'm old enough to decide this for myself." Borg Teddy replies, "It is your life. You should live it your way. They need to realize that your life isn't a Hallmark movie where they find you a new woman and then they all live happily ever after. They shouldn't force you into dating and a relationship if you're not ready for it, and if you were never ready for it, they should respect that too. I wish you and your children much happiness." Some people cannot understand that one does not need to have a romantic partner to be happy or to live a full life. I'm sorry for your loss and your sister's inability to respect your boundaries. You are definitely not the asshole. I had a neighbor like this. She was friends with my brother and his ex, and she constantly pushed me to let her set me up, even after my brother and his ex moved away. Some people just think there's something wrong if you're not with someone, and they have to fix it. She tried setting me up, i.e. harassing me, about going out with this guy from her church, and then offers, "If it doesn't work out with him, there's plenty of others I can pair you up with." So there was nothing special about this guy. Just that he was single, you were single, and it's a match. She was so insistent about it. She was visiting with my ex-sister-in-law one day and cornered me into my room to try and make me agree to it. I was in there hiding with a migraine. Sister-in-law had to make her leave. Our next post is by user Parking Sign 44, titled, "Am I the asshole for how I responded after my husband asked why I'm being so unladylike in front of my whole family?" To begin, I'd like to mention that my husband, 39, is the breadwinner. He works in airlines as a pilot/always working, while I'm a stay-at-home mum taking care of our home and our 3 kids, 5 years, 3 years, and 6 months. Lately, we've been having a few arguments with him complaining about me not taking care of myself and my looks, and always being busy with chores and whatnot. We got invited to my parents' house last night. Once we sat down for dinner, my mum, sister, and I started talking about preparations for my sister's wedding. My sister talked about her hair, makeup, dress, etc. My husband kept giving me looks and raising his eyebrow whenever the words haircut or makeup or new dress got brought up. He decided to pitch in the conversation and started openly criticizing my current look and how unladylike I've become recently, especially after our 3rd child was born. He went on commenting on how much he'd like me to change my hair color, get my nails done, or buy a new nice dresses to wear, like other wives do for once. I was stunned, mouth wide open, and so were my parents. My brother-in-law was laughing secretly, and my sister was looking at me head to toe in a poor sister type of way. My husband didn't stop at that, and ranted about how I should start taking care of us and be more energetic, positive, outgoing, sexy, and so on and so on. Then he looked at me and asked why I've become so unladylike all of a sudden, and kept looking at me in a "whatever happened to you? What changed?" type of way. I was mad. I loudly said, "Behind every unladylike, miserable woman, there's a trashy, negative asshole man," and pointed out what changed, and that it's him not pulling enough weight in childcare, delaying, making excuses, and putting house chores upon me constantly while he posts on Facebook about what an amazing work he does to provide for us. I cook, clean, wash, do laundry, get up with the baby, and feed and change and bathe, and so on. He reminded me that I'm the stay-at-home parent and he's the moneymaker. I've pointed out that there are a lot of dads who are moneymakers and still do their part as a partner and as a parent. He was stunned and dumbfounded as everyone was looking at him in an awkward, embarrassing way. He got quiet the rest of the visit, just looking down and avoiding eye contact with everyone in the room. He blew up in the car, asking what the hell possessed me to go off on him like that in front of his in-laws, who now have a very false, very misleading impression of him. He says no matter what happens, I should never share our private issues with family. I reminded him of who brought it up in the first place, and he called me petty for making a scene to get back at him, only for giving me some innocent advice. He's sulking right now. Did I go too far? And info, to give some background, I'm not neglecting myself. I do my hair at home. I do activities and wear eyeshadow, but not full makeup. My husband says I should do more for myself, like go to the salon with my sister or friends, and go shop for new dresses. He says he's just giving me advice, and this topic isn't something that I should be upset about. I might have been on the oversensitive side lately, but I feel like he was being pushy, and he thinks I ruined his relationship with my family with what I said. I think his in-laws know exactly what's going on here, and I think, you didn't need to blow up at them for them to realize he's just a trashy individual. For a lot of people, this is grounds for a separation, and you wouldn't be blamed by any of your siblings, his in-laws, for making that choice. I very much think after that interaction, they'd be like, yeah, that was unexpected, and, he deserves it. That is to say, that is a big action to make, and in some situations, you'd be like, there wasn't too much wrong, divorce is crazy, but your response, after your husband asked why you were being so unladylike in front of your whole family, no, not the asshole. That is a much less impactful thing than divorce, and if they can understand and not think that you're an asshole for a divorce, you're absolutely not an asshole for your response in this situation. This guy is absolutely suffering from pathetic man syndrome. I do hope he finds the cure someday, but I'm not hopeful on that one. Unless he's willing to make that change and be a better person, I wouldn't count on it, unfortunately, OP. He sounds pretty entrenched right now. I'm just gonna say good luck with this one. Not the arsehole. Now in the comments, Claypaul Jr. says, not the arsehole. Sounds like you have 4 children under the age of 6. Quote, his in-laws now have a very false, very misleading impression of him? I think his in-laws have a very clear idea of who he is, considering he said all those terrible things in front of them. Seriously, if my husband said these kinds of things about me in front of my parents, they would kick him out of their house. If my sister's partners said those things to my family, he'd be lucky to leave the house in one piece. My parents would hang up the missing persons posters and lie with a straight face. Hey babe, I know you've had a lot under your belt with the kids in the house and the newborn, so I want to give you a day to focus on yourself so you can get a haircut, visit the spa, go clothes shopping, and pamper yourself because at the end of the day, you're not just a mother, and we need to make sure you look after yourself too. That's one approach. There's a lot of other ways to approach this that isn't so hateful. I mean, goddamn, what if we're dealing with PPD on top of sleep deprivation? But this dude approached this in a way that's just begging OP to put a shiny red bow on top of the divorce papers. OP, I'm sorry your husband has little to no respect for you. To say that to you, let alone in front of others and get pissy at you for his words, is just disgusting. Please take the time to stay with your family if you can, and seriously consider your options. You and your children deserve to be happy. I hate to say it, but how long is it until your hubby is arguing that you forced him to cheat because he decided you let yourself go, when in actual fact, you were slaving over caring for your 4 kids and a household? Not the arsehole. Working or not, he's a parent. It is his responsibility to help with the children. He insulted, belittled, and attacked you repeatedly in front of your family, and then has the nerve to sulk because you clapped back harder? No, you did not go too far. You said what needed saying. Don't let him guilt you into thinking that you're in the wrong. And not only that, I would consider taking a break from him. His behavior is absolutely appalling. To do that in front of your family? Counseling is a must at the bare minimum. Not the arsehole. And our next post is by user Amando Marie, titled, Am I the arsehole for refusing to eat, knowing my mother-in-law will not eat if I don't and causing her to faint? We currently live with my husband's mum, and she does a lot for us. I truly appreciate that because we got ourselves into a financial rut. Mother-in-law is a hardcore perfectionist who always has to be the best at everything to the point that it is completely toxic. She was taught growing up to never eat if someone else isn't, and as a teen, that spiraled into never being the only woman eating. It was ingrained in her by her very overweight mother to never let anyone think she was a pig. Not surprisingly, my mother-in-law and her sister both have serious issues with food. This is insane, obviously, but she's also an ER doctor who doesn't work normal hours, so this makes it even worse. We are someplace that is probably in the 3rd or 4th wave, so she's been working crazy hours. The other day, she took us after work to do some errands. We don't have a car at the moment, but she said it was fine because she needed groceries. The grocery store sold food that you could eat there, and she asked if we wanted any. I had just eaten, so I said no, but she should eat since she just got off work. She insisted she wasn't hungry and was just thinking about us. By the end of the shopping, she seemed to be shaking and asked again if we wanted anything. My husband said he'd eat something just because he felt bad for her. I wasn't hungry and I said no, and she ended up leaving without eating. Then we went home and she fainted. I don't know if it was just not from eating, as she's been working like 20-hour shifts pretty routinely. Now her boyfriend is pissed off at me and says that I should have eaten something so she would. I said she's a grown woman and I don't feel responsible, but he said I know who she is, called me an ungrateful tramp, and said it's my fault she fainted. Now in the comments, Caliban Drive says, Not the arsehole. You can't be held responsible for another person's disordered eating, and you mustn't ever let anyone else's disordered eating affect your own healthy and orderly relationship with food. Your mother-in-law is an adult, and so she is responsible for taking care of her own health. This woman is an ER doctor. She knows what happens when you don't eat. Yeah, she knows, but she's also struggling with eating issues. Maybe show a little compassion, especially with all the stress that ER doctors are under right now. Stress makes eating disorders flare up. I don't really understand all the not your responsibility comments. OP's inability to afford housing or to do basic things like get herself to the grocery store is also not mother-in-law's issue, but she is still choosing to put herself out to help OP. Mother-in-law could have been home alone eating after her 20-hour shift, but instead, she was helping OP run an errand. Mother-in-law is struggling with mental illness, and OP is well aware of this. Mother-in-law is also under an incredible amount of unavoidable strain at work. She does not have the time or emotional bandwidth to go into therapy to deal with her eating disorder at this moment. She was suffering with an acute health problem that OP knew of at the grocery store. Mother-in-law shaking. OP admits she knew that mother-in-law was likely hungry, but that because of mother-in-law's mental illness, she could not bring herself to eat if OP didn't. OP could have done a simple thing of saying, okay, I will eat half an apple because I see mother-in-law is suffering, and she really needs my help right now. Instead, OP says, screw it. I'm not hungry and I don't owe mother-in-law anything. Should mother-in-law say screw it, I'm not responsible for OP and chuck her into the street, or leave her at the grocery store without transportation so that she could go home and eat in peace? Family should support each other. That means eating an apple in the moment for mother-in-law's sake and talking to her about going in for treatment of her eating disorder. If she can't treat mother-in-law with basic decency and compassion, then OP needs to stop relying on mother-in-law for housing and transportation. You're the asshole, big time OP. And edit, thanks for the awards. I just read OP's comments and it makes me so sad for mother-in-law. Mother-in-law was raised by abusive parents, which is likely why she accepts crappy treatment from her son and OP while lighting herself on fire to help them out. Mother-in-law pays all the bills for OP, her husband, and their baby. If it were me, I would kick OP out as she's a leech who's contributing to mother-in-law's mental health struggles during a difficult time. Everyone sucks here. You have no obligation, but knowing that she has an eating disorder, it would have been a kindness to eat. Surely you could have gotten something small and nibbled on it. It was a grocery store. You could have purchased a small portion of grapes and just eaten a couple. You said you live with her and she does a lot for you. Why not support her in return? Added to that, we all need to be supportive of healthcare workers in this horribly stressful time. Actually, the more I consider, the more I'm leaning towards you're the asshole. But I don't like the actions of others in this story. This was not a huge deal, and you chose stubbornness instead of kindness. Our next post is by user throwaway.quest, titled, Am I the asshole for asking a teenage boy if my 4-year-old can have his claw machine prize? This afternoon, I was at the arcades with my 4-year-old daughter. We spent a good few pounds on the toy machine, trying to win her a Monsters Inc. soft toy. A group of teenage boys were interacting with us, trying to give us pointers on how to win. To be honest, they were pretty annoying, but I was polite. After a while, I told her we spent enough now, and I'm sorry, but we have to stop. She was crying that she didn't win. One of the boys played the machine and we watched them. He won on the second go, which made my daughter even more upset. I asked him if my daughter could please have the toy, as it would mean a lot to her. He went all awkward and silent, and then one of his friends said how it was rude of me to ask. I ignored that boy and carried on talking to the boy with the toy. I said I'd give him £2, as that's how much he spent on it. He then laughed and said sorry, but no, it's mine. The other boy then called me an idiot. So I told him he's the rude one and is obviously not raised right. Everyone was staring at us as the second boy and me were a little loud, I guess. I didn't think it was an outrageous request, but when I told my daughter's dad about it, he said it kind of is. I don't think it was outrageous of you to ask and see, because it's something that I would potentially be okay with doing myself to keep the 4-year-old girl happy who was so invested in this. You got your answer, and that one boy with the toy just said to you, sorry, but no, it's mine. That's a fair enough answer. The other boy called you an idiot. Sure, that's a bit of an escalation. But then to say that he's not raised right, that's you retaliating to a situation. You're really bringing yourself down to a teenage boy's level. I really think you're the asshole for doing that. To a lot of people, this is obviously going to be an outrageous request in this situation, and I can see how you were in the wrong for what you've done. Obviously, that other teenage boy is in the wrong, but he is a teenage boy. That is just what a lot of them do. So I'm gonna have to say you're the asshole for this one. Now in the comments, Science Not Kids says, you're the asshole. That's really messed up to try and pressure a minor to give you his possessions. Right? OP can't understand why this boy shouldn't give him the toy that he won with his own money, but he's the one who isn't raised right. Go figure. If the boy wants the toy, he isn't obligated to give it away. OP is the one who either needs to suck it up and keep playing, or teach her daughter that we do not always get everything we want. You're the asshole. No one else cares about your spawn. You're also in for a whole heap of trouble if you raised her to expect this type of entitlement. She's gonna be the give it to me type soon enough. I just had a Veruca Salt flashback. But, the original Willy Wonka had such great music. And you're the asshole. You put that boy on the spot, asking in front of his friends and your crying 4-year-old. They even tried to help your 4-year-old win the toy, but you found their pointers annoying. I'm glad his friends stood up for him. If you'd asked once and let it go, then I would say the name-calling wasn't justified. But you pushed on even after they said no. Am I the asshole for calling my husband delusional for demanding I give him 50% profit of my business that he didn't support? My husband, male 35, is a bank clerk, and I, female 29, have a work-from-home job, which I can hardly bear since I'm an active outdoor person and I like doing gardening stuff in particular. I figured since I have a background in gardening, I decided to use our spacious backyard to grow flowers and sell them online after arranging and organizing them into bouquets. When I brought this up with my husband, he said this was the worst idea ever, adding this would be a major waste of time and money and suggested I look for a second job. I didn't listen and started my business little by little. In a matter of 18 months, it started bringing decent money in and I gained customers. My husband offered to look at how much I was able to make in the past months, and was impressed. The other day he was standing with his drink while I was checking my flowers. He talked about what a good job I was doing keeping our business flowing. I corrected him about it being our business, and reminded him about how little faith he had in my potential to make decent money out of growing and selling cut flowers. He was like, well, I didn't honestly think your little gardening hobby was going to get anywhere, but now that business is flourishing, I want my fair share of profit, and won't settle for less than 50%. I was puzzled. I asked why he thought he should get any share of the profit, let alone 50%. His answer was that I was using his soil to grow my flowers on. I said this is our house and our soil, it's not just his since we're married, and both of our names are on the title. He was like, actually, I owned this house long before you came along, so it's technically mine. I replied that he must be aware it'll be split in half in case of separation. He laughed and joked about how silly I was for hinting separation just because he was asking for something that he so richly deserves, which is 50% of the profit. I said no, and that he was delusional to ask because even his soil alone doesn't magically grow my flowers. There's a lot of work to it, from picking, buying seeds, taking time and effort to care for them, collecting, trimming, and selling them, while all he does is sit back. I said that it didn't matter to him when I started using his soil, so why now? And he says it always matters when money is involved. We had an argument about it and he apologized, but only for approaching the subject rudely. But he still wants 50%. He's been silent about it since after stating that he already said what he needed to say and I needed to make the right decision. Am I the asshole? To clarify, my husband and I both have our own salaries. We contribute equally towards expenses. It's his idea since he had a divorce before. He still has things that he owns alone, which isn't bad since money has never been an issue. It's not like he needs money for an emergency or something, he just wants 50% of profit going forward. The OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. The reason I could be the asshole is calling him delusional and refusing to compromise at least, and figure out a way to work this out with him since he owns the house too. I'm gonna go with absolutely not the asshole for this one. He's honestly just looking for money. He's made that very much apparent. There is no other reason for it. He's just being a straight up asshole about this situation. Consider your next moves carefully, but for this, I judge you not the asshole. Now in the comments, Mine and Angel says, not the asshole. And I really hope you're consulting a divorce lawyer. Your husband just showed his true colors, and the picture isn't pretty at all. Leave his sorry ass to rot on his soil and plant a new garden somewhere else without an entitled burden. I think that would be the right decision. For marriages, since she started the business during the marriage, would he not be entitled to 50%? I know prenups can save you your assets before the marriage, but there is really nothing saving you from what you make during. Not necessarily. It isn't a registered business, and he'd have to find accounting records to back his claim. It would be very easy for her to say this is a hobby that she's fortunate enough to be good at and makes very little from after supplies, food, and water are paid. She could also just stop watering her flowers, separate and rent a house with a backyard and start over, which would be cheaper than paying out someone who's done nothing but insult your hobby and belittle your worth. This guy will end up alone and broke. But if it isn't registered, then wouldn't it be shared income? I know nothing about this topic, I'm just curious. Sure, that garden and business might end up 50% his in a divorce, but that doesn't water the flowers or pick and arrange them, nor could she be compelled to continue to work in that garden/business. He could just have a dying garden, half a shuttered business, the soil in the yard, and no wife to kick about and then rob when she has money. Mean Girl 33 says, not the arsehole, but you need to visit a lawyer ASAP to get your business registered in just your name and look into a post-nup. You need to protect yourself here. This is insane and a huge red flag. I think that idea of separation should be considered seriously. First, protect your business by filing for an LLC if you haven't already. Then take the house and land and make him buy you out. Our next post is by user SnooChickens8518, titled, Am I the asshole for posting a picture of my baby? So me, 28 female, and my ex-husband, 29 male Ben, got divorced at the beginning of last year. After we got divorced, I found out I was pregnant. I decided to keep the baby, and in November of last year, my son Christopher was born. Chris lives with me on Sunday to Friday, and on Saturdays he stays with Ben. My husband's new fiancée Genevieve, yes, with a J, is acting like Chris is her son. She's trying to teach Chris to call her mummy, even though that is what he calls me. She criticizes my purchases and baby products and calls me cheap and even tells me that she should have part custody even though she and Ben aren't even married. What pushed me too far was when I posted a picture of my baby. Jen had the audacity to tell me that I can't take a picture of my baby without her permission. I gave birth to the baby, and I take care of him for most of the week. The worst part is that she posts pictures of the baby, and when she does, she makes it seem like he is her son. After this instance, I couldn't handle her anymore. I gave her and Ben an ultimatum about how she was treating Chris like he was her son when he only sees her once a week and she isn't even his official stepmom. Ben said I'm being an ass and Jen is just being nice. Am I the asshole? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. I might be the arsehole because I yelled at my ex-husband's fiancé. Yeah, but you can yell at people and still not be an arsehole. She absolutely deserved to be yelled at in this situation because she's wrong. That's pretty much as far as this one goes. It doesn't need a huge in-depth explanation. She needs to cut that out. You're attempting to get her to cut it out. If it continues, there will be more yelling and there will be more drastic action from you. That's fair. You are the real mother of the child. She isn't even a stepmother. Not the arsehole OP. Now in the comments, Laugh Until You Cry 95 says, not the arsehole. I would also check your state laws on parental alienation. It's one thing to want to love the child of your partner and spouse, it is another to pretend to be mum when mum is in the picture and you are the caretaker. Not to mention contact all social media sites and report all photos for unsolicited pictures of a minor. As OP is Chris's parent, she can legally request for them to be taken down. And not the arsehole, but stop letting her get you riled up. Just tell her you're not interested in her opinion on baby products, that you're not discussing sharing custody with her, that you will take whatever pictures you want of your son. Don't dignify her nonsense with the emotional reaction that she's clearly trying to provoke. Just say, I am not discussing this with you. This. Yeah, Ben is the only one that you should talk with anything about. She texts, you don't reply, or tell her the first few times that you will only discuss with Ben. They are not married, and even if they were newly so, Jen has no place in the child custody discussion. Eventually though, if Jen stays and marries in, she needs to be a partner in raising Chris, a united front. That all needs to start with Ben and come to you both through Ben. I'd reply to all the Instagram posts with kill with kindness type comments, like thanks Benevieve, Chris will love when mummy has this ready for him to come home to. And then add annoyingly perky emojis into hashtags like hashtag mama bear style, hashtag love has no price, hashtag Benevieve. But then again, I have no children and am the pettiest mother effer on earth when you really push me, and I love the plausible deniability vibe of superficially nice but scratch the surface bite, the Irish way to communicate. I like to really throw in a bit of grey rock by simply lowering the IQ of the interaction to the point they cannot play chess with a pigeon, because you just went dumber than a pigeon while being cute as a kitten. All Bizou babes. You got it, hun. Baby loves it. Never actually engaging. Just a non-stop, non-ironic hun headspace that is like talking to a bot. It drives people who just want to rise or to be taken seriously when you just reply in emojis all the time, even by text. Plus points for meme and gifts while carrying raising Chris as you choose. And not actually giving her an inch while trapping her in a cul-de-sac of talking to herself, so if it ever did go to custody, you look mildly teeny bopper mad, but she looks like the fixated escalating crap stirrer who when you reply baby cheeks to post about images, and she starts saying I am his mummy, that she backs herself into a corner. I would keep anything actually parental important like shots, sleep schedules, etc. with Ben really polite, and only in writing. And then the same woo tummy time type comments if he starts trying to get all rules about Jen as step-parent. So it doesn't look like you're singling her out, but you've just gone all baby brain. No rise, but particularly frustrating grey rock for them. Nice as pie, just really sickly not very good pie. Our next post is by user Your Girl Leans, titled, Am I the arsehole for moving out because my nephew is moving in? So I, 23 female, I'm still living with my parents but paying rent, $600 a month, grocery money to my parents, about $150, and all of my own bills. I graduated uni last year and started my first grown-up job in January. Despite wanting to move out when I started working, my parents convinced me to stay living at home in order to save money because we live in a very high cost of living city. They told me a few weeks ago that in October, my nephew, 17 male, would be moving in with us indefinitely. My nephew's mum is my half-sister, and I've only met him once in my life as he lived across the country. I have no problem with him at all, and I know family is family, but I really don't want to live with a teenage boy again. I also have 2 brothers, and one still lives at home. Our house is too small for this many people, and I really want my own space for friends and dating, etc. So I found a decent studio for $1,500, and I told my parents I'm moving out. They were pissed because they said they need my rent money for their mortgage, and especially with my nephew now living with them, groceries and living expenses will be more expensive. I told them it's not my problem because they invited an additional person to live with us without asking me, so I can make my own decision without asking them. My nephew can get a job when he comes, or they can ask my sister for rent money, but it's not my responsibility. They said I'm an asshole because family always helps family. Wow, family doesn't always help family. Actually, in a lot of cases, family is very much detrimental to family. That's just a cop-out by them. That is really mean that they would back you into a corner like that. I don't know, if I were you, OP, I would stick to your guns and move out to a decent studio apartment. No one's stopping you, they're just guilt-tripping you. If you don't want to live in that environment anymore, they should pull themselves up by their bootstraps and learn to live with the situation they're in. It's not fair on you, and obviously it's not fair on them to have to figure that situation out, but unfortunately that is life sometimes. I'm gonna go not the asshole for this one. Now in the comments, Cloth Diaper Addict says, not the asshole. Your parents unilaterally made a decision about your living situation. They changed the terms, so it's perfectly reasonable for you to leave because those terms are not what you want, nor what you'd previously agreed to. Exactly. And OP is old enough to be making her own decisions about this stuff. I don't know why the parents expect a 23-year-old to live with them forever. Money. That's why. She hasn't been living there out of the goodness of their heart. A bit weird they would bring on an additional, non-rent paying boarder though. I mean, he's 17. It's not weird that for whatever reason, their grandson needs a place to live, and he can live with them and not have to pay rent. What is weird is that they're so mad about OP leaving or not wanting to live with a pretty distant nephew. I think what they're saying is that it's weird that they need OP's $600 just to stay on top of the mortgage, so clearly they're in a financial hardship, yet they can afford to house another person. Not that it's weird that a 17-year-old doesn't pay rent. Not the asshole. At some point, you are going to leave home. Now is your time. Your parents are apparently enjoying your money and have perhaps come to rely on it. Better you get out, because the longer you stay, the harder it will be to go. Our next post is by user I Smell Like Oranges 221, titled, Am I the asshole for snapping back with a hurtful reply when my husband's coworker called me annoying? So my husband was away for 2 weeks on a work trip. It was more of a voluntary training thing really, so I picked him up at the train station when he returned. It was a 32-hour-long journey by train, and my husband can't sit up in a moving train for very long without feeling sick. So obviously I was worried, but I was also excited to see him. So when we stepped out of the train, I got all excited and gave him an energetic hug and started fussing over him. He had also caught a cold because of the train AC. I also have an embarrassing nickname for him which I like to slip out in public just to embarrass him because he looks cute when he's embarrassed. Now, it has to be noted that nobody else's significant others came to pick them up. One of his co-workers said, "Annoying crap like this is why I'm single." And some of them snickered. I hit him back with a, "No, it's probably because nobody likes you." And everyone laughed. Now, I have some excuses. We got married just before quarantine. We've been practically glued to each other since quarantine hit. I lost my job, and we decided to not look for another one right now so I could work on my mental health a little, plus he rarely has to take trips like this. It was difficult, and I missed him terribly for 2 weeks, especially when I had to take his place as his cat's slave. Also, my ex always hated when I got excited by something and kept telling me to sober up, so that guy's comment got really annoying. Now, I know I hurt him with that, and like you could see it in his eyes, I struck a nerve with that one. So I've been feeling guilty but also kinda justified. I know it's wrong to make fun of people for not being in a relationship, and the fact that everyone laughed makes me feel worse. My husband has asked me to never stop being annoying, quoting his coworker, and to never not be excited to see him. But he might just have a slight bias, so I want some objective opinion. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I kind of humiliated him in front of everyone, which makes me feel like an asshole. Look, I feel like he deserved the retaliation in that sense, and what you said doesn't make you an asshole. He could have been more tactful in his response, yet he said, "Annoying crap like this is why I'm single." Maybe if he rephrased the start of that, he wouldn't come off so spiteful. Annoying crap like this, that's not something that you say without meaning to hurt the other person. Like, is it beneath him to do weird couple stuff? Feel like that's pretty normal to me. And you, OP, reiterating by saying, no, it's probably because nobody likes you. Fair enough. I imagine a lot of people think that when someone says something like that. That is a fair thing to think, but maybe it's an arsehole move to say it out loud. I don't think it is. I'm gonna go with not the arsehole. Now in the comments, Bisexual Fool says, not the arsehole. Don't dish it out if you can't take it. Exactly. Don't start none, won't be none. Dude clearly enjoys a bit of farfo. Check yourself before you wreck yourself is my go-to. And farfo, if you didn't know, is F around and find out. Rogue Admiral Annie says, not the arsehole. He insulted you first and wanted to bring your mood down. Your retaliation was completely warranted. I'm just impressed she was able to retaliate so quickly and naturally. I don't usually think of a good comeback until it's too late to use it. And OP replies, yeah, it was like a once-in-a-lifetime moment of quick thinking. Not the arsehole. You were actually somewhat mild in your response. Could say something like, maybe there are other reasons you're an incel. Anyone who finds love and affection annoying has more serious problems than just being single. Seek professional help. I was just gonna say, there's some real incel energy in that guy's response to a happy couple. Yeah, but those are just more clumsy and less accurate ways to say what OP said. I'm going with not the arsehole. Some people are disagreeing based on your behavior to your husband, but here's my reasoning. 1. The question about who was the arsehole is in regards to your response, not your initial actions. 2. Your husband is the only one whose opinion matters on how you choose to greet him, including nicknames, and he seems to be fine with it. I would add that I would confirm that he is. My husband is pretty stoic and so doesn't always speak up when things upset him. Not to say yours is the same, I'm just throwing that out there. And 3. The coworker was being deliberately cruel trying to get a laugh. You just did it better than he did. It's not exactly turning the other cheek, but it is a valuable lesson on treating others the way you'd like to be treated. And OP replies, hey, thanks. That kind of eased my anxiety on the matter. He's said that he likes it when I show him affection in public, but I never thought it came off as clingy. But I'll still check with him in a serious tone if he's really okay with me using the nickname and being clingy in public. If your husband had an issue with you being clingy, that's one thing. But it sounds like you were just being giddy and kinda adorable because you missed your husband. I applaud you for having a comeback so quickly. I would have thought of it hours later and kicked myself for not speaking up in the moment. And back to the post, there's an edit. So, I've got a lot of responses. Thanks, I guess, for the judgments. I read most of them. Sorry I stopped replying because I fell asleep. Anyways, I had a talk with my husband when he came back. I've been called clingy by some exes before, and it took some time for me to get rid of the "am I being too clingy?" anxiety, and the responses kinda brought it back. Husband assured me that it wasn't an issue. He said he liked it and it was not being clingy. He reassured me he enjoyed it when I get all giddy and miss him and worry about him, but he did say I could ease down on the nickname usage, especially around coworkers. So yeah, I'm not using it in public again. And then we cuddled and fell asleep, and I woke up to so many upvotes and responses. Despite so many not the arsehole responses, I did read some you're the arsehole responses with rather good points, so I'm going to apologize to the guy regardless. I'll catch him the next time I pick up my husband from work. Thank you for taking your time to read my post. and I see some people curious, so the nickname was Pumpkin. And if you're about to comment about me embarrassing my husband, please save your breath.